Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I'm here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And once again, oh boy, was this an interesting week to be a Wonder Woman fan. Oh boy. We'll be discussing that in this show, but today we are discussing the similarities between Superman, Wonder Woman, and Hawkman, Hawkwoman / girl / man. This couple is confusing as hell. So it's really weird because at one point it was like, oh, Hawkgirl's a separate person than Hawkgirl, but then it's like, no, they're not separate, but they're one person. We're gonna try and solidify all the Hawk people, and I'm like, oh, what is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, with what research I saw, it was confusing, and even the little time lapse thing that I found from a fan site called Hawkworld. I'm still like, oh my goodness, this is a lot, and I mean, a lot of DC characters are in continuity hell basically, and all the reboots and stuff, and this is canon, this is not. Um, the relaunches. This is pretty much why they had the New 52 reboot. Yes, the execution was a little off. However, to clean up all the mess and to start fresh, getting rid of the baggage that was needed. And now DC is right back to that mess that they definitely wanted to get away from.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. So it is really weird because you have so much contradictions with Hawkman, Hawkgirl characters, as we'll get into it, but we'll see with this. So let's continue on. First off, hey Daniel, what's up, Cameron? So let's get this crazy train started. So Britt, tell us about the Hawks.
All right. So with this couple, they are basically destined to be together. It's kind of like no if and buts about it. Even Bruce Timm. There's no.
That was like the worst thing ever, because then they even put in Jon Stewart into the reincarnation stuff, and I'm like, who was in charge of that?
Right. And even if they did try to have like love triangles at one point or something, it just didn't work. But they are fated to be together. They have these different. They started in Egyptian time, and then they were either warriors or Thanagarian guardians or something like that.
Police,
yeah. And yeah, so they have these a very multifaceted in every sense of that word pairing. And with our comparison of Clark and Diana, it's kind of the same thing, but not, because again, the thing that benefits the Hawks more than Clark and Diana is that, and that's what we see with all pairings, and how Clark and Diana's relationship is separate of those, because they aren't in the same franchise. They're two different franchises, Superman and Wonder Woman, but they are under the same DC umbrella. With the Hawks, they are of the same franchise. Aquaman and Mira, same franchise. So, but they do have that will they, won't they, it's inevitable. They, no matter what is thrown at them, at some point they will get together. So this is what the Hawks give us, is basically how SuperWonder could be if it was under the same franchise.
Yeah, I know. You are right about that. Is that if this shows one thing, is that the potential is there, but we all know DC is known for not living up to its potential. So I guess we're gonna go for that. So Hawkman and Hawkwoman / girl. I keep saying that because Hawkman and Hawkwoman and Hawkgirl have been the same character and the different character at the same time.
Right. I mean, even in name changing, you can have Shiera, then you can have Kendra, you can have what's so funny is how, like, with James Gunn DCU right now, and how so many fans, anybody can be a DC fan, whatever um made you appreciate these characters or interested in these
Yeah.
characters. However, the
Uh,
back and forth between like JLU fans and just more so the casual fans that only know, kind of like the cartoons and stuff, they are hell bent
yeah.
on arguing against these characters are the same iterations, which is so funny to me
I
because kind of
mean,
like,
Kendra's very young in this movie. You
yes,
can't put her with Jon Stewart.
you really can. And I mean, they are, I think, let me see, if Isabella is 22, I
Mm-hmm.
think, and Aaron is 30 something.
Mm-hmm.
He's 30. So yeah, you really can't put them together because of the age gap. And she looks like she's about 16, even if she is in her
And
20s.
depends on how young her character is in the movie. Barry Cameron
Exactly.
brings up, I'm skeptical about this because Percy the Hawks, to me, never had a good relationship, at least until DC made Hawkman a creep. Yeah, this is one of those occasions where the adaptations did Hawkman no favors, like in the DC AU, where they made him a stalker, and I'm like, that's not Carter Hall or Katar or
Right.
whatever the hell his name is. See why it's confusing? Everyone has so many different names.
Names. Right. Yeah, that's the thing is many of these, adaptations and iterations, they do for the sake of drama and conflict, it's at the expense of the characters. So to make Hawkman a creep, I think at some point he was also kind of like an abuser too. So yeah, it's a mess, but at the same time, because they are, like I said, of the same franchise and how they are established, the purpose of their relationship, regardless of the bad, they are going to be together, and it is going to be glorified as this end all be all type thing.
Exactly. And Randy says, it's like you said, very xenophobic. DC being xenophobic? There's no way that would ever happen. Wow. It's almost like they're xenophobic with a certain character that has an S on his chest, but there's no way that would ever happen. And then Kirby
Yeah,
says, I'm going to be honest, I forgot Hawkman and Hawkwoman ever got into a relationship. I got so used to Hawkgirl and Jon Stewart. Thanks a lot, DCAU. Speaking of classic couples, DCAU broke up a class because previous to the cartoon Brit, Jon Stewart and Shiera were never in a relationship.
right. A lot of pairings, in some adaptations, even DC AMU when with Raven and Damien. Raven is much older than Damien, but she was aged down to fit Damien in that certain verse. Now you have where there are Damien and Raven, Damien and Raven, Damien, Damien and Raven shippers who feel like that is again the end all be all, and they're supposed to be together. And if they see anything else outside of that, instead of reading the comics and knowing the history of the characters, then that's what you're gonna get. So with John and Shaira, yeah, to see that they've never had any type of interactions in within the comics is kind of funny. And when they try to do some type of interaction, it seems so forced, and it's kind of like they have to say that they're influenced by DCAU, and you can tell the difference between that and the comic iteration, that it just does not work.
Yeah, and to a certain degree, I do understand it because when I had Sam Liu on the show, obviously he brought up that a lot of people are attached to the DC thing that got them into comics, and they really want like the comics to reflect that. We see this a lot with the Wonder Bat fandom, also with what Randy brought up, because they think that like Batman and Wonder Woman have always had this romantic attraction, and I'm like, no, either it's been the cartoon or certain comic writers, i.e., a certain man whose first name is Greg and last name is Rucka, trying to force it in to a perfectly good event. We have Wonder Woman dealing with like death and rebirth, and all of a sudden Bruce Wayne appears in front of her, and she's like, "Oh, Bruce!"
Right. It is certain things, and especially with that certain pairing, it's how Greg Rucka, he wanted to change the Trinity dynamic. It's always at the expense of Clark and Diana's relationship, and because they feel like Clark should only be with Lois, and so Clark and Diana can't even be best friends. So it is a being hell bent on changing that for her to be closer to Bruce, which again is not organic, and you can tell that it's very forced. Then you have like how Tom King is doing, where he plagiarized Immortal Beloved because he didn't have a story.
Oh, okay, wait. Where is it? Okay.
Why did you say that name?
Well, we're going to be ranting about him later on, so you're gonna.
Oh yeah! Oh God!
You're going to be using that a lot. You have where it's just certain storylines that when you read Wonder Woman, especially the main hero, that is he is supposed to be, within her supporting cast, you would say, like an honorary supporting cast member, is Superman. Like that is point. He is supposed to be her best friend.
Who do you bring in your first arc after the Sovereign? Batman.
Right, and it's
because Wonder Woman somehow can't solve a murder on Olympus. Someone actually brought this up. Do you know, it says a lot when Trial of the Amazons does something better. When, who was responsible for solving who killed Hippolyta, Brit?
Cassie.
Yeah, because she's a detective.
Yeah.
But then again, remember, Tom King had like a list of things never to include. Apparently, he changed his mind about including the gods.
He did, yeah.
Because I'm like, wait a minute here.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if he changes the gods to be kind of like really stupid.
Or he'll make the gods super hedonistic or like really like stupid. Yeah, stupid. Or like mentally deranged. Oh my gosh, I just realized. Oh my God. He could do that to Hippolyta because Hippolyta is one of the gods now.
Or he can have them worship Batman.
Yeah, it's like I love where the solicits even try and have it with like a god, and I'm like, Batman's not a god. Shut up about the Bat God BS.
Yeah, it's getting to a point where that again it's forced. Diana,
and I'll get into why it's forced in a little bit, because trust me, your boy has some words.
Yeah, you see that Batman Wonder Woman is never in Batman comics. Like it's
except for when she's forced into, ironically, by a writer who can't write Wonder Woman. Isn't that funny?
Right. But in pre-crisis and post-crisis, it was mainly Clark and Diana, guest starring in each other's books. Batman will be in everyone else's book, but his books are off limits. Even Nightwing, Nightwing and Starfire, if they can't have Nightwing and Starfire together, which
they
honestly
can. But Brit, you know what I just realized something. Here's probably why they're putting Batman in the book. The sales are so bad that they're trying to put Batman in the book so that Batman fans will come and read it.
Batman fans do not care about Wonder Woman.
They do not care. It's not going to work, but I think I just realized the thinking behind this. In addition to Tom King would rather be writing Batman because his Bat title flops so bad, again, because he has this more flops than someone with erectile dysfunction. So it's like it flops so bad that that they gave him a pity series because they didn't want to piss off the mighty Tom King, who, by the way, is crappy writer who doesn't bring a lot of sales to DC anymore. His heyday was in the New 52, ironically, when he wrote Agent Grayson. When he wrote Batman, by the way, Brit, I don't think I told you this. My buddy was doing a live stream, and Dan DiDio, you're going to love this. So he was talking about how, like, he was actually talking to Dan, and someone else came up and started talking about how much the Tom King Batman run means to them, that it's one of their favorite runs. So Dan DiDio says, "Oh, I hated that run. I think it was one of the worst things I've ever read."
Oh my gosh.
I miss Dan DiDio so much, because if he were in charge, Tom King would not get Wonder Woman.
Oh, definitely not. I think that,
because say what you want, it was under DiDio. Yes, the 5G plans were stupid. They were gonna make Wonder Woman the first superhero.
Yeah, the 5G plans were very stupid, and honestly, that would have been the nail in the coffin for DC. However, I think that before it got to just that tipping point, it would have been yet another relaunch. And because DC put, all their eggs in one basket for 5G, where you have John and Yara and Jace and stuff like that, and though they were supposed to be the new generation, DC doesn't have a plan right now. So they're basically just spinning their wheels and on autopilot for, present time. Because, they don't have an idea, and then Jim Lee, he's a great artist, but he doesn't know, it seemed like he doesn't know how to truly lead, the company.
No, because he would rather be drawing. He said this himself. But anyway, we have to move on, so let's do this. All right. So Hawkman goes back to even the golden age of comics, with first appearance in 1940. So around the same time, like a couple of years after Superman showed up, if I remember correctly.
And I believe it was after Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Yeah, after Wonder Woman. So the Trinity exists before Hawkman exists, and also Hawkgirl, because I believe she was created around the same time as well.
Right.
So recount for us the early days of Hawkman.
Okay, so all right, so you have Carter. It's Carter, and then is it Katar?
Katar, isn't that confusing?
So yeah, so Carter Hall was an archaeologist who discovered that he is the reincarnation of Prince, I want to say Khufu, if that's how you say it.
Khufu,
but yeah, it was, and then his soulmate Shiera. Honestly, that's actually a very unique way to spell Shiera. And they are destined to be together again. It goes back to ancient times, and it's this old tale. It's very. It gives very much that fairy tale Disney type thing, and that
tale as old as time.
Very Beauty and the Beast, and it also gives this mythological type sense too. Then you have Hawkgirl or Hawkwoman, Shiera Sanders, whichever way you want to say it. She is the reincarnation of Shiera, and she is drawn to Carter, and they become crime fighters together. So it is that very fairy tale, we are destined to be together, that love at ancient first sight, the souls joining, before we ever met type thing. Very Hallmark type, relationship. And within the golden age also, this is where a lot of the relationships that DC obviously have ruined, or they don't get enough credit and enough presence like you have Clark and Lois or Diana and Steve, which ironically, those relationships were very dysfunctional and weren't as stable as these relationships that we've already uh, went over. You know, Backhat was, I would say Backhat was far more established than Clark and Lois or Diana and Steve.
It was. But by the way,
And
Brit, you know what's interesting about Hawkman and Hawkgirl? I thought that superheroes have to always marry non-superheroes.
that is another thing I was going to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that also is a section that I have that's down um the line of this presentation. And we also have, you know, Aquaman and Mira. They were um together as being married, you know, way before Clark and Lois, and you know, just these different couples that we've, like I said, that we've covered. You can really tell the history is far more in depth, and it has so much more of a meaningful story together. The mace that they use, the nth metal, you know, the way Scott Snyder tried to use that
Mm-hmm.
for the Batman Who Laughs and whatever that, it kind of confused me. It felt like they tried to
All right.
make it in a sense of like the vibranium, you know, because with Black Panther, and they wanted to say, oh, we got the same thing here with DC, and it's the you know, the
It
nth
wasn't
metal
just
type
that.
thing.
It gets more complicated than that. So there were all these different metals in DC. One of them is literally called Batmanium.
Oh my gosh, are you
I know,
serious?
original. I am dead serious. And the way it would work is that if you combine all of the metals and pour them on Batman, it opens a portal to the dark multiverse.
That
Because
is
all the way back in Final Crisis, when Batman is shot with the Omega beams and sent back in time, that's when Barbados, the god of the dark multiverse, first became aware of the positive multiverse.
that is so fanficky.
It is so weird. It is so weird. And I'm like, what the heck is, because that's what Scott Snyder's known for. He'll take like minor things in DC and then like blow them up.
But he also blew it up to the point of the Bat God worshiping, and it's
Well,
so.
yeah, all of them happen to be a variation of Bat God, to the point where also in death metal, it was mostly all Batman. Like you had a Batman that was basically the Atom. His name was Batum. You had Batman that was in a monster truck named the Batmo Beast. Then you have Batman that uploaded his consciousness into the dinosaur in the Batcave.
Oh wow, this is
You also had Batman that was exposed to the Omega effect and became Darkseid.
no.
No, yeah, exactly. There was one called Batrocitus, which it was Batman, but he became Atrocitus of the Red Lanterns.
Oh my gosh.
And finally, so you know how the Batman Who Laughs got super powerful in that? You know, it became that shadow. You're gonna love this, Brit. All right. So that's what they did. So they referenced Doomsday Clock for this. So there is a Batman who, after Doomsday Clock happened, exposed himself to the same sort of accent that created Dr. Manhattan. So he became Dr. Manbattan or something like that. I don't think they actually named him something like that. But the point is, so Wonder Woman kills the Batman Who Laughs with her. She makes a chainsaw O Truth, which is a chainsaw, but for the chain, it's the lasso of truth. So
right.
she does that. So what they do is they take the Batmanhattan, take his brain out of his head, and put it in the Batman Who Laughs head, and and somehow that transfers the powers, and then that's how Batman Who Laughs becomes that shadow thing.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds so fanficky.
It is so nuts. It is the crazy. And he also has a Robin that's called the Robin King. That's what if Batman was a serial killer as a kid and killed his parents, and then he has like a thing in his belt that can kill each member of the Justice League. And what's kind of interesting is that for the Flash, he actually has the Flash ring, and when it pops out, the costume with Flash's bones pop out.
Oh, ew. This is definitely...
That's one of my favorite parts of the show is exposing Brit to all this stuff that is the most crazy stuff in DC.
He loves horror, so I'm not surprised. But he goes down the rabbit hole, and even the most, Z level of horror films I don't think it's nothing compared to how Snyder, tried to. The thing is, he tries to make things so kind of like poetic too. So with his bombastic type way of thinking, and then try to make it poetic, it just, it's very much a lot of sugar honey iced tea poured in a back cup. In
a bad cup. That's good. Speaking of bad, so there was this one part of his Batman run when the Joker Joker-fied the Justice League. So to fight Superman, Batman chewed up kryptonite gum and spit it in Superman's face.
Okay.
Oh, and what he did in Metal to Carter is that so the way the dark multiverse works, that these are worlds that were supposed to be destroyed by a creature known as a dragon. So in other words, at the World Forge, which is where they build all the Earths, so somehow they're building Earths. The ones that turn out bad are supposed to be destroyed by the dragon, but Barbados was the dragon, so he's the one that's like allowing these worlds to grow. So eventually, Carter becomes the dragon. He's this giant hawk beast. That silence is all I need right now, because it is like Metal itself is one of those stories where when I read it, I was like, I thought it was awesome. Then when I think about it more, I'm like, well, that was kind of stupid.
Yeah, it's a lot going on there that is kind of like, oh my gosh. I mean, comics is comics, and it's something that it is supposed to be very entertaining, very, out there. But at the same time, it's some stuff that's kind of like, okay, maybe you need to dial that back just a little bit.
Oh, you remember when Marvel was publishing the New Warriors?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, the grandfather's experimental internet gas.
Okay, I don't know about this, and I'm
scared. He was giving origins for like all of the new Warriors. One of them is a character named Screen Time. He's perpetually connected to the internet because as a child he was exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas.
Oh my God. Yeah,
and I'm like, what the hell is I turned to my friend who was like an engineer and I said, what the hell is internet gas?
You did inform me about this and I completely forgot about it. And thank you, Jared, for reminding me.
Or Snowflake in Safe Space, where Safe Space is a stereotypical jock, but he's covered all in pink. He's got pink hair, and they're supposed to be brother and sister, yet they're holding each other very, very, very affectionately. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, don't tell John Byrne. All right, so
oh my gosh,
so that's the golden age. Then we get the silver age of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, and this is when DC started to embrace like the more sci-fi portions of the characters, because remember, this is where we get like Hal Jordan and Barry Allen.
Okay. So this is also the wackier time of DC as well. So so now we have Carter or Qatar Hall. I want to. Is it pronounced that same way? Because this is HOL. So is it still Hall or is it like?
They've pronounced it differently in so many adaptations. It's like Ra's al Ghul at this point. I always just say Cater Hall or Carter. Whatever you want to say is fine.
Okay. So now they are together, married, which again, you see how within the Silver Age, all these other couples are settling down, together, married, while you have Superman and Lois with a book that's very misogynistic and sexist of her chasing after Superman to marry her.
Mm-hmm.
um, and they were police officers. I did not know that they had like these different. I knew of like the different occupations, of course, throughout the decades and whichever time period they are on, but I never knew just the depth of how they, you know, I think that being police officers or being these, I don't think the Egyptian time, well, they were royalty, you know, all of these different sort of levels of, it seemed like it all comes together in some
Mm-hmm.
way too. Um, then you have, like you said, the sci-fi and the technology, which is pretty interesting. I mean, this is pretty much why they wanted also Superman to be integrated in the Hawk world as well. I think Vendetti tried to do that where like Hawkman's ancestors were Kryptonian
A
at
past,
some point.
a past reincarnation. He was a Kryptonian.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That
That's
is,
cool.
yeah.
But yeah, it's or remember this is also by speaking of craziness. I think this was the period of DC when we have that infamous cover of Superman pulling a solar system on a chain.
Yeah.
Silver Age was weird because there was no limit to what Superman could do. Or like in the Silver Age, if you expose him to red kryptonite, it would give him a lion's head.
That was red kryptonite?
I believe it was red kryptonite.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of like really weird stuff that happened here. I'm like, what were you guys smoke? This is where you had like Comet the Super Horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, Beppo the Super Monkey, and there was a lot of really both interesting and weird stuff. This is also where they established that Green Lanterns are weak to the color yellow, and Alan Scott is weak to wood.
That is still very interesting to me.
I'm like, why wood? But okay. Then we get to post-crisis. If you thought it was complicated back then, so quick thing I want to bring up. They did an event called 0 Hour Crisis in Time, where they attempted to consolidate the Hawk people. So literally all the Hawk people were consolidated into one character. And that just made the situation infinitely more complicated.
Yeah, I think this is where, like I said, the way DC, honestly, they make it seem like post-crisis is, when these characters were created. And it did so much harm long term than, even the fans that are so attached to it wants to admit.
Yeah, I'm like, if post-crisis was so great, why'd they have to reboot?
They don't have an answer for that.
They don't have an answer. Again, these characters have existed since before post-crisis. This is the problem. A lot of fans treat post-crisis. I think a lot of fans overly idealize post-crisis. It doesn't help that you have creators that are perpetually stuck in that era, which is why I've always like advocated that at a certain point, DC has to start phasing out giving work to certain creators, because if they're stuck in that era, or at least doing in continuity work, because if they want to do a one-off book that takes place during post-crisis, yeah, that's fine, just do it. But because you had writers like Jurgens writing new 52 Superman differently because, and I quote, I don't want to write them this way. And I'm like, first off, you're a freaking child. And second off, You will write Superman the way it's established that he has to be written.
Yeah. And I think that really hurts it really, when you have writers that act like that, that really hurts the development or having a new universe and everything like that that goes with it. And also limits the storytelling.
Yes, exactly. It makes it impossible for other people to come on because and you keep trying to cram in post-crisis stuff and into a rebooted world. We're like, how does Batman have 5 Robins in 5 years? That makes no sense. That's why they had to expand it and go, actually, it was 10 years. But I'm like, no. But with this, so we keep getting sidetracked. I know, sidetracked us. Well, all right. The funny thing. So Hawkman was in Black Adam. I want to bring this up. And the stupidest part of that movie was that Hawkman is the one lecturing Black Adam about killing people. And I'm like, bro, Hawkman would be the first to whack those people with a mace. Hawkman is going to be the first. Hawkman's the one you have to tell not to kill people.
Well, I think
the new 52 series, Brit, was literally called Savage Hawkman.
I think what it was, especially with that movie, it was in the perspective of The Rock and how he wanted Black Adam to be ruthless, and which the character is.
But again, have Superman be the villain. Then that makes sense.
And yeah, but honestly, I think Black Adam was a passion project, misguided. But they did the best that they could. You know, I don't want to give Gunn credit. But I think that especially when he has most of the characters looking like they're like old as dirt. But I think that if Hawkman is to be cast, for live action, and how it seems that they are again mixing post crisis with New 52, you are most likely going to have Savage Hawkman.
Oh, we're definitely gonna have the Savage one. There's no way we don't have the Hawkman that's gonna whack people with a mace. I mean, that's what we got in the Tomorrowverse as well. That Hawkman was at least for Hawkwoman. Yeah, the first time she sees Green Lantern, she tries to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. But anyway, so with this, you also get a little bit of the introduction of Kendra Sanders, and then this is where you have like the Jeff Johns Hawkman book where so in Post Crisis they actually tried at certain points to not have them together and like explore other relationships. Like I think Carter once dated Power Girl for some reason because they were on the JSA together, and I think Kendra at one point dated Red Arrow. And the point is, they tried to split them up and do other stuff, but again, it was like it was doomed to failure. And what's kind of funny is that there was this part where, so it was during the first couple of arcs of the Brad Meltzer JLA, they went to Thanagar because they were trying to like track down the Legion of Superheroes, and Power Girl takes Red Arrow aside and she goes, "Hey, you in this relationship with Hawkgirl, you should break it up because this never works out because again, Power Girl brings up the same thing. Those two are somehow linked. There's no way that it will ever work out between the two of you."
Which in some cases, I mean, you can in stories say that some relationships don't work because I mean you can have it work, but it's some things that like with Hawkgirl, Hawkwoman, with Red Arrow. I don't know. Some things is kind of like, hey, there's definitely a crack ship you're trying to make work, or you're really trying to throw in different character for drama. But yeah, and especially if the characters don't have that chemistry, similarities, or just that type of what's the purpose of putting them together, and it's just you, like I said, using these characters for a quick, conflict and drama.
I have something that just got announced live. So there was this DCU update just posted that Superboy will be a major supporting character from Green Lantern 20 and on. He will team up with Kyle Rayner. So Jeremy M's fact checked it and said it's true. He said originally it was going to be those two and Cassie, but alas, we found out late that was a no-go. Thus, Odyssey was born. So interesting how Tom King. So could it be that like Tom King has a plan for Cassie, or is it just like no, we don't want other people using Wonder Woman?
I think that it sounds like for him to say the Odyssey is for well, Stephanie Williams, I think that's her
Mm-hmm.
name. She is teasing that she will do something with the Amazons. So I'm pretty sure Cassie will probably be in that. Tom King, he definitely does not care for the Wonder Girl, so she's not an important part of Wonder Woman at all. I doubt that Tom King really has. Um, I mean, even what we saw at this point, he isn't really doing any favors for Cassie or Donna or Yara. So yeah, I don't know why editorial kind of stopped that. It can only mean that really, I would say Stephanie Williams has plans for her.
Or what if, again, what if DC wants to keep the Wonder family so isolated from DC because of what's going on with King?
I mean that too, because how King did um with Batman, I feel like he wanted that type of control with the Bat family, and of course that is not the family to set limitations for. But
Mm-hmm.
but with Wonder Woman's family, I think that Tom King feels like he has more leverage. So yeah, he does probably have some type of let's say leverage for that for the Wonder family.
Yeah, but anyway, so then we get to New 52 and Rebirth, and this is where you get like, for one thing, you get like Savage Hawkman, like I said, like it's in that image right down there, and then you get in Death Metal. What they reveal is that in the New 52 continuity, Kendra never became Hawkgirl yet. She was like an agent of Checkmate. Then she was exposed to metal during Dark Knight's metal, and then the wings literally sprang from her back, and it was just as gross as it sounds. And
Yeah.
after this, she was on the Justice League under Scott Snyder. And what's kind of interesting about that league is that they literally had the TV show crew, except it was like Barry instead of Wally and Aquaman and Cyborg. But so you had that. And then they did something very interesting. Scott Snyder paired her with Martian Manhunter.
And that's what I mean. That pairing was so random. And then he also tried to give them like some type of future kid too.
Yeah.
So that is what I'm saying. Is very random pairings just for the hell of it, and it's not something that really, is something that could be established as, um, if you want to go out of the traditional barriers, you know, no matter how much people want to fuss or, disagree, but Clark and Diana's relationship is definitely something that makes sense outside of the traditional pairings because the traditional pairings are by default. Like we can't, you can get away from that. Steve, he was away for a long time, but you do have writers that feel like that is the go-to, and it's more so of a laziness to them. But if you have the writers who want to challenge the characters in a way that makes sense and they still stay within their own character and um it all matches up, then yeah, you can have a pairing that's outside of the traditional pair, which is Clark and Diana.
Yeah, exactly. It is very, very interesting on this. And again, so they actually did what was kind of funny, a storyline where Hawkman, where like Deathstroke was hired to kill Hawkman. So he literally stakes him out, and then Hawkman attacks him, but Deathstroke's armor reacts because Deathstroke's armor is made of nth metal. So Hawkman's like, "Why do you have this?" And he goes, "I found it." It's kind of it was kind of cool. I love New 52 Slate. It was really cool. And then actually, so if you remember Superman, Wonder Woman, so Hawkman would be recruited to serve on the Justice League of America, which was the team created by Amanda Waller and Steve Trevor, perpetual stick in the mud, where it was intended to be a league to fight the Justice League in case they ever turned evil. And I'm like, they picked the characters. Martian Manhunt is the only one that could take out the league because Catwoman's supposed to fight Batman, and I'm like, what? Or I'm sorry, I think Katana was supposed to fight Wonder Woman, and I'm like, Katana, all she has is a magic sword, not powers. But beyond that, I thought it was kind of cool, and I did like whenever Hawkman would show up, it would get really bloody, or like in New 52 when Hawkman fought Zod and he just hits him with the mace, and then Zod just looks at him, and then Hawkman goes, "Oh no."
Right. And wasn't there in one of those encyclopedias where they also said that Waller created the team, and really with Steve too was on board because he wanted to fight against Clark and Diana being together?
Yeah, probably. That would make sense because that is Steve Trevor's character in a nutshell. But he is a perpetual stick in the mud. I love that one scene. But one of my favorite parts, it is from Justice League Rebirth, but this was great. I love where Hunter shows up and Steve goes, "So who's your father?" And then Hunter goes, "Not you."
Not you.
I love that. I'm like, man, what a savage. But I'm like, hey, Steve, you must be a moron because if you look at him, he's wearing Clark's cape. Who do you think is the father?
Honestly,
as far as I know, obviously Clark is not actually Hunter's father, but from Steve's perspective, because he doesn't know this, what do you think?
I stand by that because editorial change or whatever, and how Hitch had to revise Hunter's origin, and he admitted that the story had a lot of editing, but he never kind of he never let the details know of why it was edited or what. But I think you can kind of tell what was edited. And honestly, I think that Hunter was originally supposed to be Clark and Diana's biological kid.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't. The story doesn't make sense to why, for Hunter to be so. First of all, there is a flashback where he's younger and he's flying. Well, Diana, even though she had like going back and forth with the Zeus origin, it was always stated that she never, had the ability to fly yet. So it wasn't truly natural for her. So for him to be able to have the ability to fly at a young age, he had to, of course, inherit it from Clark. And just the way he was drawn and built. And also, I mean, even with trying to have John and Damien in the mix, I really just feel like it was editorial. So even with what Hitch is saying, yeah, Hunter, for better or worse, is Clark and Diana's biological kid.
As far as I know, yeah, but that's beside the point. But it's like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, if you're gonna make it that similar, because everyone else was the biological kid, or in Cyborg's case, techno-biological kid of the Justice Leaguers.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny considering the fact that Barry and Jessica
Right. Everyone had their kid like that one page or panel when the Justice Leaguers are kind of lined up and then the kid who belongs to them are confronting them. Yeah, Hunter was with Clark and Diana. Then when um the story first at the beginning of the story, you have Diana telling Clark about, we have to do this for the future of our children, and she puts her hand on his chest. And then the end of the story, where Hunter is saying, "I can't wait to meet you in the future," and you have Clark with his hand, with his arm around Diana's shoulder, and it's kind of like that is so weird that all of this
Yeah.
happened for him to exist. You know, Diana has to be in a very difficult situation. So, and for you to say I
Methinks
can't,
it was. I do agree with you. Based upon that, methinks it was changed at the last second because they were scared of backlash.
not, it wasn't the backlash. It was to not overshadow, um, John and Lois, I
Well,
think.
not only that, Diana was with Steve at the time.
No one cares for Steve.
No one
Steve,
cares for
even
Steve.
if,
I know no one gives a crap for that dude.
yeah,
Which it's
so
the,
no.
except for Tom King. Tom King's the only writer that seems to care about Steve, which he's making all of us hate him. But anyway, continuing on.
Right.
So tell us about by the way, actually Randy brings up they marketed Hunter as a potential son of Superman and Wonder Woman, then pulled another bait and switch. Yeah, they marketed
Exactly.
it. That's where I'm like, wait a minute here. They even I remember because when that happened, when they basically shared out CBR articles about it, I posted on this. I'm like, wait, are they or are they not? Because this seems actually, you know what? I can pull it up. I don't post on Facebook that much, so I can actually pull up the actual post that I had all those years ago when this came out. Hang on. It was way before Comics League, obviously, but I remember I was checking this and I was like, okay, wait a minute, because this doesn't make a lot of sense. So it was one of those things when I was watching, I'm like, you made such a big stinker about getting rid of Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship. Why would you all of a sudden do something that kind of makes it inevitable? Because again, if you have the kid, it doesn't that kind of solidify the relationship, which again makes it kind of weird when you factor in like Barry and Jessica, because I'm like, wait, does that mean Barry and Iris don't end up together in the future, or is that future like wiped out? Time travel is so confusing.
Right. And also, I mean, again, if everyone else had a biological kid and it was, as random as ever, and it wasn't really within the timeline of, you know, that certain future, then yeah, it's a possibility. I just really think that they didn't want to overshadow John and Lois, especially because when they were marketing Hunter, he was the most talked about. But then as soon as it was revealed that he wasn't their biological son, the interest pretty much plummeted. And, no one actually cared for him. Then to make matters worse, you had Diana in a difficult situation of being essayed, and that was something that, like, why would you, you know, accept doing that when that's the reason for a multiverse is that you can have these different iterations of these
Hyperman.
characters, or yeah, and you can have different timelines and stuff. Even in the New 52, when unfortunately it was Lobdell, but when they say like there's a different timeline where Clark is with Lois and they have John, a certain John Kent, and he is the like something would try basically Lobdell was trying to put Connor um as his DNA mix with Clark, Lex, and Lois.
Mm-hmm.
And how his DNA came about was using a son from a potential future of Clark and Lois. So if you can do all that just for, going over backwards for them, you can clearly do it for Clark and Diana. But again, like I said, they do not want Hunter to overshadow John and Lois.
No, they don't, because and again, by the way, it is kind of interesting, by the way, and then we'll move on because I can't find this post, but it's like when you look at how they're going to how they seem to be remarketing John as just Super Son and not Superman. Methinks DC is finally realizing that having multiple characters hold hold the same mantle is a stupid idea.
That, and again, with 5G not being something that they can execute, they don't have um, a leader to actually do that. Even Williamson, he does not care for Clark and Lois to have kids. Even with the
Really, I
Super Twins,
noticed because the War World twins are nowhere to be found.
right? They pick and choose when they want to care for legacy characters, but I would say that the OG, Justice League, and especially the Trinity, they don't want them old. And with with them having kids, the on Bruce having, Damian works for him because Robin has been there since the beginning, you know. But Clark and Diana are a different um they have a different path because first of all, within their character, they are immortal, and they don't have that type of stability that or purpose that Batman has to have a Wonder Girl or Superboy. Um, it's just not the same as having a Robin. So with Damien, it works. With Trinity, it definitely doesn't work because she doesn't even benefit Diana. And honestly, Diana's character is being mangled for her. And then you have John, who was his only creation was to um, replace Clark, but the 5G plan was to make Clark a dictator. So yeah,
I
that
thought
was
it was.
definitely John.
Here's the thing. I thought that was John because in the New Frontier issue for Diana, so I believe the Spectre brings out about John is destined to become a dictator.
That was actually, yeah. Um, Infinite Frontier actually changed it, and of course, Williamson was head of that. So all they did pretty much was repurpose the 5G plans, and they tried to implement that with John of being the dictator, but it was actually Clark. I mean, now you have John on this the Secret Six team, and I believe that writer actually said that this is John's like villain origin or something like that. So yeah, they are really trying to find what to do with John and make him interesting. So they can't have Damien, so because Damien has his own thing going on. So to try to make, like I said, John interesting, they are trying to make him a villain or an anti-hero.
Mm-hmm. But I know I'm still trying to find this Facebook post, but occasionally a picture of me pre-beard comes up, and I'm like, man, I look young. Anyway, okay. The point is, it was a thing that I posted about, and I was like, "Oh, but about time DC did this," and then DC made me look like an ass. But anyway, so similarities between Hawkman and Hawkgirl and SuperWonder. Let's go.
Okay, so like I said before, the Hawks are basically the relationship that you can see if with the multifaceted layers that Clark and Diana have, except they are able to actually explore that, a little bit more in depth. So they both are of equals, with the also the double standards of them being matching, having the matching colors to look
Ah,
look a certain way and everything. And um what Clark and Diana represent, of course, is like these godlike beings, but they don't like being called that. And they are like the known characters within DC. And they are pretty much like a king and a queen of DC, the mother and father of the entirety of the superhero genre and everything like that. With Hawkman and Hawkwoman, they are tied together as that, as each other's um, soulmate. They have been of royalty. They are, um, in a sense, they are powerful enough to even be within that realm of gods themselves too. Then you have where you are exploring a relationship that is inevitable and immortality. Even now, Superman is now Williamson. He is established to be immortal, and
Well, yeah. I mean, as long as that sun remains yellow, it keeps. I'm like, I knew that. And it's like, oh, by the way, Brit, I was right about that, wasn't I?
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, for those that want to know if we have them as immortal in the Shelterverse, we keep it ambiguous.
yeah. I, honestly, at 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 this point, with the fact that Shelterverse is an entire multiverse or something, it's basically the Hawks reincarnation type thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of like that. And actually, it was kind of funny. Now that you bring up inevitability, it is kind of funny how, as soon as Lois dies, who does Clark go to?
Yeah, and the thing is, what is with Clark and Diana, their relationship, it starts off where from the very beginning of meeting each other, they want to be together, but of course, editorial wise, they won't let that happen. And then in story, they make up, certain things like in post crisis, um, of at first they weren't on the same wavelength. Diana, she was young and Clark was rushing. They um have the same goals but a different perspective, especially when you have Clark and his whole I'm just human type thing and disregarding his Kryptonian heritage. Um then then you have where he is with Lois, and but you also have that complication of they're best friends, Clark and Diana, best friends, but they do have that lingering feeling. And then, yeah, when Lois kicks the bucket, it's kind of like, okay, this is our time. And they are together for the duration, whether they are together for 1,000 years, until the end of time.
It would be hilarious if Lois is on her deathbed, the heart rate monitor goes beep, and then all of a sudden Clark takes out his cell phone. Hey, Diana, you up?
That is, Jared, that is so messy.
That's almost like that's what I would do. Right? It says if Lois dies, we're all doomed. Yeah, because everyone knows she's the linchpin of DC. So then we get to they have this shared heroic purpose.
Yeah, so with that, every couple are, protectors, they are seekers of truth and stuff like that, except for Clark and Lois, which regardless of their truth, they are romanticizing lies and being unethical. But most pairings, are, and even if they have different perspective, they still have that same goal of betterment, of um, understanding, and just trying to, you know, help everyone to get where they need to be.
Exactly. It's in other words to inspire mankind.
Right.
So then we get now let's get into some differences of the relationships.
Which the differences very much outweigh the
Mm-hmm.
similarities, because with Hawkman and Hawkwoman's relationship, again, it is a destined love of end all be all. There's no, even if they try to put them with other people, um, if they want to make a love square like JLU did, it doesn't work. Um, it's very much that temporary type thing. And because they are of the same franchise. With Clark and Diana, they aren't the traditional pairing. They aren't the end all be all in a sense of, again, they aren't the traditional pair. They go outside where you have to pretty much, with the Hawks, it's kind of like they can give you a one liner of why this pairing can be together. With Clark and Diana, you have to really go in depth and explain why they should be together. Um, and then their relationship is also, Clark and Diana's relationship is very much the alternate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Exactly. Yeah, go on.
oh, and then the Hawks also at the beginning, they are bound by tragedy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, one of them dies, or two, or they have to die to be reincarnated. You know, things like that, or something that is like a Greek myth that, all most of the love stories within that time, within myth, is a tragedy. With Clark and Diana, it's it's very much, the only tragedy is if you had like He Who Shall Not Be Named that did volumes 3 through 5 of Clark and Diana's, book.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me that addendum to identify which of the 18 creators are in our He Who Must Not Be Named category.
Uh, Honestly, I should have just pointed at
Oh yeah,
the
the image
picture
on
at
the
the
right just said the image on the right. Okay, I know who you're talking about.
yeah. You have that is pretty much the only tragedy that they endure, but it's also that feeling of being alienated, being these outsiders who, and their humanity is constantly questioned, and not having that person to truly understand them. So um, it's also where Clark and Diana, like I said, their humanity is always questioned, and that the expectations of in story and out of story.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to some more differences. Like, okay, here we go. This is what you talked about earlier: the double standards of fans.
Yeah. So with this, again, you have fans that, oh, they're matching. They even have you know, that they are hawks, technically,
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's no question about that. That is because they are in story established to be together, and being within the same franchise. With Clark and Diana, it is much more difficult for them because the expectations of fans are the more traditional relationships with Lois and Steve.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And see, the other thing about this, you know what? I'm going to say it. Here's a similarity that I picked up on, by the way, between the two is that they both understand certain components of the other's lives. Like Diana understands Clark having to hold part of himself back from people because of his secret identity. Shiera or slash Kendra slash whatever the hell her name is understands the like the sort of trauma, I guess you could say, of being like constantly reincarnated. So they both understand each other. They both have a deeper understanding of each other, which makes their relationships the most compelling.
Well, yeah, that is very true. And the thing is, yeah, if they are compelled in that sense, then why is it questioned for Clark and Diana that have that same understanding of, like I said, the expectations that they have?
Because
The
again, I've said before that like Lois fans are really just Lois fans.
That is true. That is also true.
You know
So
that because why do they always emphasize Lois over Clark in a Superman book? As you can
yeah,
tell, I'm salty.
or they also say that, if Lois isn't in the book, that is that misogynistic and sexist, and they make this big deal of her, Clark, like how they wanted her to be in War World. It's kind of like, why would
What would
she?
she do in War World?
I don't know.
I
Maybe
mean,
make up a
if you want
story.
Clark to have a girlfriend slash wife in War World, I know Diana was dead at the time, but well, dead. She was in Valhalla, and I just think about how much more awesome War World would have been if it had been Clark, Diana, the Hawks. And it's like that's what Jay Heat and I wanted to do for the New Direction verse. We wanted to have the war. We're gonna do Clark and Diana's second honeymoon is liberating War World. So they bring literally all the warriors like Diana, the Hawks, literally everyone that's intended to go there and wreck shop.
Wow.
Just
That
imagine, instead of the Authority, you bring swords and maces.
yeah. I mean, that would have been with that. I think that every time DC uses C-listers, for team ups with A-listers, it's always to make the A-lister look better. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing that they did with Death of Superman. How they have had the in a sense lesser known, Justice League than the true heavy hitters and to
Brit, it's
help.
okay. You can call them what they are, lame.
I wasn't trying to.
But it is. It is. Because we both know, Brit, that despite what, because it's kind of funny, they did another story after that called Doomsday Wars, where Doomsday actually fights the actual Justice League and defeats them. Except here's the problem with that: is Doomsday being controlled by Brainiac, so that doesn't count because our good friend, okay, he must not be named, but also wrote The Death of Superman, the One Trick Pony. He got tired of people bringing up how the actual Justice League would have beaten Doomsday, so he had to write a story where his OC beats the Justice League. But I'm like, dude, this is why the Death of Superman animated movie doesn't work, because that Justice League is not getting bodied by Doomsday.
Right. Yet they still nerfed. I think he who shall not be named did confirm that at least Diana was very much nerfed for him to be able to die.
Yeah,
Which
exactly. So I'm like, oh god, I'm like, it wouldn't be the first time that universe disrespected our girl.
yeah. So I mean, if you have to nerf her, which we know that because the fact that her sword was shattered, and that is
Yeah.
a magical sword, and you're telling me that Diana, who fights gods and demons from the underworld of Tartarus, and she also fights gods of Olympus, that you're saying that Doomsday is more powerful than a god.
Well,
It's certain things.
we also add in the fact that Doomsday was a Kryptonian creature. I believe Kryptonians are weak to magic.
Yeah. So it's yeah, that whole thing very contrived and just whatever.
It's amazing how everything intended to promote Clois is contrived. Barry Cameron brings up Clois fans also say SuperWonder doesn't have any stakes or tension. They would agree on everything and would not fight or have any argument, which makes me side eye those people that want the relationship. What kind of relationship do they want with their wives? Yeah, I'm like, there. So you want to fight with your couple, but beyond that, with the whole no tension. I know I'm reading the first volume of Warworld Saga. Lois is like in danger, and I'm like, he's gonna save her. Why do I care? So
Yeah, it's
it. You want to talk about no tension?
right. They don't argue. They don't have this, even the mini backup for Lois. You know, when she pretty much wanted to make herself seem like the big boss now that she was the editor in chief of the Daily Planet, and how she put Clark on, you know, lesser stories really made him feel bad. She even like did this double standard of, you know, I'm your boss now, I'm not your wife, and how she was being very hypocritical because now she wants to call out the supposed double standard of him writing on himself as Superman, or you know, doing these Superman stories. And it's kind of like, okay, you did the same thing, and and by the end of the story, you knew that they would be, you know, all lovey-dovey, because at the end they pretty much brushed off how Lois treated him, you know, very bad. And she wanted to make it seem like, or it was written to make it seem like Lois wanted to just toughen Clark up in a sense, or try to show him that perspective of being unethical. And then Clark just forgave her, or it just wasn't something that they talked about, you know. And then he was, of course, given credit for her having a Pulitzer.
Well, by the way, so my friend Robert, who's a big Lois fan, hates that story because of what it paints Lois as, and I'm like, oh, you mean it paints her the way she actually is?
Right. I mean, I'm sorry, but most of the stories that Lois have is like that one. It's just very much glossed over. If you are a shipper, if you are a Lois fanatic, you won't see it as, you know, blatant as that was, because it was clear as day. Some stories are very they have it as very subtle and everything, but yeah, that one is right there in your face. But the let's say the double standard of even Lois having powers now. How I see some
Everyone
Superman
brings
fans,
up they match.
yeah, they say that they match, that they are the power couple, and that it's all about Lois having the powers to fly. Superman fans, I saw a couple of Superman fans, they were really hyping up the date issue when they saw that, you know, they were on the moon. And they, of course, thought that something else would
Oh
happen.
yeah,
Yeah, and
they
it's
thought they were going to Dark Knight to the moon, huh?
right. Definitely what they wanted. They definitely want a Dark Knight 2 type of situation with them. And that's just something that you're not going to get.
You're
Because
never
it's,
gonna get that because no one cares about that.
and also it's just how these fans want to take from Clark and Diana. And they also were thinking, well, now that Lois has power, she can be equal to Clark. That she can, that they can have another superpowered kid to replace John. And it's kind of like,
She's still
is it
biologically human.
human? And I mean, doesn't that say about the eugenics part? Because they always say how Super Wonder fans are, they only care about powers and they only care about them having kids. First of all, that's something that always comes up in any ship. Like that, having a family, getting married or whatever, you see fan arts of multiple thousands of ships have these hypothetical children. So I don't know. So why that is so emphasized in a negative way with Clark and Diana? It doesn't make sense. All of the um against Clark and Diana are always something that's projected.
Yeah. DC fans are projecting? No way. By the way, I am echoing on your side, by the way. Okay, now I think we're good. All right. So,
Off with the eugenics part.
okay. Okay. And so tell us more about the differences.
Okay, so more with the eugenics. They were going to have the Hawks. I guess it was a mini series, but they were going to introduce them having a son. And of course, the Hawk fans were very excited for this kid. Um, and he was, I think he was, I will have to see if I can find the synopsis again, but he was being promoted, I think, as this little powerful, you know, little, not so much as bratty, but he was going to be a little firecracker. And then you have.
So, would his name be Trinity, perchance?
No, I would say that he probably would have been better than Trinity.
Anyone would have been better than John. Is better than Trinity. Damian in the first arc of Grant Morrison's Batman is better than Trinity.
That's true. That's true. I will give you that.
I just love. So you decided to give Wonder Woman a daughter. This is why. So real quick, we'll talk about this more later. But so when I was watching, because Comic Pop recently covered the first volume of Tom King's Wonder Woman, and one of the things that he said is at the end of this story, it would be in Tom King's like wheelhouse as a writer to make it so Trinity was never real. Like that was Diana's hallucination when she made like the clay thing. It doesn't make it better. Let me put it to you that way. But it would actually meet one of the goals of my hashtags.
I mean, it wouldn't make it better, and it would be like a waste of time for all this time Diana to be in an illusion. Honestly, this will be the second time she will be in an illusion from what Rucka did with New 52.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it would be so much better for her to not exist because it doesn't make sense, and also with her being a mother, there are layers to being a mother and to write her being a mother. She can't just, even though she didn't like birth her, she still created her, and it takes time to nurture her. That means that Diana, at until not even until she's like one in story, she definitely has to be on the sidelines at least until she's at that 5 year, 5-year-old stage. And
which I doubt DC is going to get to that point.
Right. So having Diana like take care of a toddler for that long, and Tom King thinks that he's going to have 100 issues or be, of
that
Diana
ain't happening.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So that's definitely something that should Trinity being an illusion makes sense, especially because we haven't seen like the Amazon's reaction. We haven't seen any type of genuine reaction to her having.
We saw
Trinity.
Hippolyta.
I said genuine. That was not genuine, Jerry.
Mm-hmm. Which then again, that whole experience could have been an hallucination.
Honestly, yeah.
The only part that I would keep not being a hallucination is Steve's death for obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons. Yes.
Oh, Randy has a perfect analogy. Saying John is better than Trinity is like saying a rotten egg smells better than a skunk.
That is.
I love the people that watch this channel so much. I love you all so much.
That is so true. That is so true.
That is such a great thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is so good. And I'm like, of all the writers that you could have picked to make it, it's just like, the problem is if they keep Trinity around, they're going to end up at that stupid adult Trinity thing. That's why in my mind, Tom King himself, even the kid Trinity was talking about how Diana's a toxic mom. So I'm like, wait a minute here. You literally keep sabotaging this character. What are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like Tom King does not want people to like this character. If he did, he succeeded. Anyway, next. Actually, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so the next part is like we said with the matching colors, the matching costume, and the matching powers. With the Hawks, it is natural for them. It is okay for them to have to be matching. But with Clark and Diana, you always get it's incest, or they sibling coded, or it's Diana will be female Superman, something like that. And it's kind of like, okay, you don't say this or have this type of energy for the Hawks or Aquaman and Mira. You don't have even with Lois having the powers. I mean, her name is Superwoman, for goodness sake. So, and she has the same exact powers, is very redundant to Kara or Power Girl. So, why is that okay, but Clark and Diana isn't?
Because it's a magical word, Brit. It's a magical word. Hypocrisy. That's
Yeah.
why.
You also have where they think that Clark and Diana want to have like this super race. And I saw someone also bring up master race, as in thinking that that is what
Which, to
Frank
tell me you
Miller.
haven't read that book without telling me you haven't read that book.
Exactly. I mean, that's basically a criticism of the fact that Clark and Diana do have
If
children,
anything, the
but
bad guys want to create the master race.
exactly. And the thing is, Clark and Diana, or especially Diana, she's trying to protect her children from that. And then you have teenage Laura, that's, she's very much in this position where she doesn't know which way to go. She feels like being with mortals and everything, she's going to be judged. She's going to feel that isolation. She's going to, feel that certain resentment because of how she had to be raised hidden, hidden, and it was fearful. And then you have where the Kandorians, they come and they basically show her that she can be with people that understand her in that certain sense, but they were actually being manipulative. So yeah, that story really, it actually criticizes, eugenics and that notion to think that Clark and Diana would ever agree to something like that.
I know, but it requires people to actually read it. But then you also have the writers. So here's the funny part. Donna DC launched with a Hawkgirl book. And so I had this on my pull list because I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out. The minute I saw the previews okay, it was another one of those things where an activist gets on the book to write their OC. They literally, so this individual, Jazia Axelrod, as a matter of fact, creates this original character named Galaxy, who's a terrible character. And then to antagonize the fans, she literally has Batman show up in the book and say, "You belong."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I think that she was trying to make Hawkgirl gay. The problem is, like you said, the Hawks are the characters that you have to keep a certain way, that like it's built into their character. They eventually cannot be with anyone else but them.
Right, right. So, I mean, I didn't I didn't read that book, but from what you are,
It's so bad. I didn't
yeah.
even read it anyway, but I saw from other Hawk Hawk fans that it was ridiculously bad. So I was like, no. Immediately as soon as I saw the preview, I was like, well, that's the fastest I've ever had a book on my pull list.
And the thing is, when Isabella was cast, that was one of the books, or well, the first cover that James Gunn shared. And that's also a thing where he can share a certain cover, of for the character, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that will be the um the book iteration or the book that is adapted, except for, you know, obviously Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And the only reason why that is being adapted is because, he's besties with Lex Luthor. So, but yeah, with that book, I don't know. At some point, DC is very much throwing a lot of crap to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, even if they try to do certain things with certain characters, it has to make sense. And this is the one thing that you can explore different relationships, but it can't be a crack ship and it can't be just for drama. Um, but you also know that that is something that can be temporary with, the Hawks. But I think also why Clark and Diana is scrutinized, more so is because it's something that can actually last. Like it's something that, however much fans, traditional fans, want to force that, oh, it's just a temporary thing, it can just be a fling or something. They know it has the ability
To be
to
more.
last, to last longer.
And what's up, Josh? How you doing, man? He says, awesome discussion. I loved all the points being made. Thanks, brother. Josh is a good friend of mine from the Snyderverse community. So what's up, brother? But it's like with that, it's like, yeah, it's interesting the way that ends up. But in terms of like the thing about the writers, it really does annoy me. Going back to hypocrisy, when DC DC literally has, for the most part, every other couple is a super powered, or in the case of Batcat, same abled, if you will, because she has gadgets and she has skills, except
Exactly.
for Clark and Diana. Ironically, Diana's
Right.
with a perpetual stick, has been in a relationship with a misogynist, a guy with the laziest first name ever, Trevor Barnes. I have to always bring that in. That's his new title in the Comics League, lazy name. That's it, lazy name. So then you also have the misogynist Tom Tresser. Then you have Steve Trevor again. And I'm like, and then with Clark, he's been with Lana, who's a very nice girl, a mermaid, and the DC's. I wouldn't be surprised if DC's reincarnation of the devil.
Oh my God.
That just popped into my mind. I was like, I could not help myself.
Wow.
But it's like, have you noticed their current relationships are the most toxic ones? Like, again, we'll talk about this when we get to Tom King's Wonder Woman. But it's like, she literally builds a statue and puts him on a pedestal.
Yeah, that was very something. That was
I'm
something.
like, I love, by the way, what's really funny. I'll bring this up when we get to the hashtag trending day, but I saw someone say that one image was spread literally everywhere and got the most backlash.
Yeah, I mean,
To the
because
point, this is why, and see, here's the thing. This is why I think Tom King stopped promoting, is very careful about promoting Wonder Woman stuff on social media anymore, because he knows if he's going to do anything like that, comments are going to be flooded. You
right.
know what? To quote the Joker, you get what you deserve.
Yeah.
Josh goes, okay, maybe not the devil, Jared. I mean, have you met Lois? It's not okay. Maybe she's not the devil. She's a machination of Cersei. How's that? Is that better?
Well, I mean, she did marry the devil, and
And remember, this is a character that did blackface.
yeah. So
This is why, again, when people talk about Lois, I'm gonna. What I need to do, I need to share that. I need to take that cover and save it to my phone. That way, whenever anyone brings up how awesome Lois is, I can go, "Oh, you mean this awesome? This awesome?" Because any other character, that character would have been canceled real quick.
yeah, it is. I mean, some people say that you can't, criticize the Silver Age because it was a Silver Age. Yeah, but when you have people that bring up that era as something that is supposed to be, taken serious, or like James Gunn, he is promoting that the Superman movie is very much a Silver Age.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, but do you know that that is a very controversial error, even more so than the New 52,
Hmm.
and very dated. So, yeah, Lois might not be the devil, but she has been written as some very, very
Okay,
devilish
she's
type things.
not she's not the devil. She's the devil spawn. Actually, no, she can't be the devil spawn because that's Trinity. Still.
Oh my
Um
gosh.
I'm never gonna let this go, Britt. So now we're gonna get to the exploration of immortality and inevitability. And I love the images you pick for Kingdom Come because yeah, that's literally what this shows.
Yeah. And we also have the Tomorrowverse of,
Hmm.
and you have, even though Conrad said it's ambiguous, it's still Immortal Wonder Woman.
Do I
That's
really
it.
have to bring up the rant again? I assure you, Clark knows a thing or two about getting his hands dirty. Oh, we know you do, Diana. We know you do.
Right.
It's just with who and on who is what the question is.
Not with who and on who. Oh my gosh.
Randy, Lois is the Antichrist. That is correct. That is accurate.
Oh my gosh.
I love, however, I love how I call on this channel caused the anti Tom King crowd and the anti Lois crowd to come out. I am doing great.
This,
This is
wow.
awesome. If there's nothing else this channel does, if that's my my legacy, I will go to my grave with a big ass smile on my face.
It's funny how, like, it just very in a polite way, in the politest way of roasting, you know,
Yeah.
Lois and King.
And
Yeah,
Steve. Don't forget about Steve.
and Steve, of course. I mean, well, he
Well,
can be easily
well,
forgotten.
yeah. I was about to say, well, don't forget about Steve. Everyone else does.
Right.
You know what I would do? I thought about this is really, really funny. If I took over Wonder Woman now, what I would do is I would have a scene. I would retcon that Steve himself arrested Amazons because he had to like stay undercover. So I would have it where like Diana finds out about it, and then she punches that statue to gravel.
Honestly, that would make sense because Steve was
Even if he
in.
had, I would say he had his reasons because he had to like stay undercover. But I would still have Diana find out about this and go, and you didn't tell me. Get
No,
out of my life.
but the thing is, well, first of all, Diana is no better because she apparently, for King, she would let terrorists get away to make out,
Well,
or she
the
would
other
keep
thing
people
I
in
would do is
prison.
have that where that entire thing was the lasso of lies, and that. Well, actually, I would make it where like the literal whole thing was the machination of Cersei, like literally everything, including the Sovereign, and that it was a big mass hallucination that the Sovereign even existed, and actually that the Sovereign was just a senile old man in an old folks' home that thought so I would do it. He's like in his little wheelchair with his oxygen tank, and he has a fake like party SETI crown. And they go, "Oh yes, who's a little sovereign?"
Oh my God.
And I'll go, "Diana has a kid," and then Diana's like, "No, I don't." Yep, there you go. Eliminate the entire thing for which I think there's I honestly have a theory, and I said this in the hashtag group chat. I have a feeling they're Brian Azzarelloing this run. In other words, making it as I. That's why I think they don't have Cassie be in like any other books. The Wonder, the Wonder the. Donna's one, they kind of have to put in with like Titans, but I think that they're trying at this point to like make it as separate as possible. And it would be funny if this is the one time where I'm like, do the reboot.
Yeah. I mean,
I
they
mean,
are at the point.
but by reboot, I mean, honestly, do the I've never been home before type of thing.
Well, I mean, honestly, we don't even know what this like if she's on Themyscira and you have Amazons that are being imprisoned or unalived, how come we haven't seen any type of um like a not a celebration, but or some type a ritual or something to
Hmm.
honor them on the island? Like we haven't seen anything like that. The most we have seen of the Amazons were them being unalived in prison, or when Diana
Sold off.
sold off in Birds of Prey, and also which I that really doesn't make sense to me, because how are the Amazons sold off when they're like warriors and can fight? Like how is that possible? But
Maybe they get
also
more of like the philosopher Amazons.
maybe, but you
It's
also have
yeah, it still makes no. Again, this whole thing makes no sense.
it doesn't, and you also have the Amazons that Diana threatened to fight for the cancer kid. So yeah, a lot of Wonder Woman's world is it's a mess.
Exactly. It is a very much a mess, and it's really annoying. But anyway, on to this. So it's like I really like the use of immortality with these two, because yeah, technically they are immortal because eventually they figure out who each other is in terms of Hawkman and Hawkwoman slash girl. I know I have to keep saying that, but then it's like when you get to and I think that adds a little bit more of a, it's very like Romeo and Juliet ish in that it's like we said before with Superman and Wonder Woman. Eventually, they get together. It's almost like in our universe, we made it a multiversal constant as well.
Yeah, it's with Clark and Diana, it is something that, and especially with the Shelterverse, and that is something that we see even within DC's history. You know, no matter what, there is this inev- inevitability of Clark and Diana, but also reminder that Kingdom Come was DC's like post-crisis set future. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then that pretty much snowballed into every other writer, so often would want to tease Clark and Diana or want to show a future of them together or something like that. So you have those instances that again it goes against tradition, and we like that because with the whole destiny thing, it's cute and all, very fairy tale, very Disney, but it's something that it feels like it lacks the depth. We can talk about how and see the tragedy, some writers can make it more deeper when exploring the hawks of their relationship, but I just feel like it's very limiting when you have to have this sort of they have to be together in that sense of that destiny thing, because that is very predictable, and that's also something that you that we were talking about earlier was the stakes, and because they would agree upon things. No, I would say that Clark and Diana dealing with gods and having the family, whether it is like in DKR of the Kandorians, starting a war, or the gods starting a war, and they, feel like Clark and Diana are lesser than them. Those are high stakes, or that they are treated as the celebrity type pairing that everyone, regardless, is judging them. That is the stakes. But with traditional relationships, you can only go so far with the conflict, because you have to know that they will be together at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the bond of understanding immortality.
So this is where, like how we saw in Tomorrowverse of, you know, Diana was immortal. Um, And Clark was, I still, with Craig saying that he wasn't, I was kind of like, but he's still very young. You know, he might age slower, but he's very much immortal.
Like I
Like you
said
said,
before, as long as that sun remains yellow.
yeah, but they have everyone that they know will pass on. They will get old. And they will kick the bucket, you know. But but Clark and Diana, they remain the same, you know, the same look. I think Tomorrow's Diana, she was 32.
Around that
Um,
time, yeah.
yeah, she was basically forever 32. And Clark, I believe he was forever or stopped aging at 34. So of course, and I actually like him being like 2 years or 4 years, like Miss 52, older than Diana. But yeah, so that works for them. But it is something that they will have that trauma bonding, but it's not so much as something dysfunctional. It's just a that they are very special characters and that are put on a pedestal, and you know these set expectations for them, and it's just someone that can understand that and can help, you know, help each other through
it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I definitely really dug that. I like that idea of let me be clear, and I think I speak for Brit with this. When we say Diana's immortal, or like when we talk about Diana being immortal, we don't mean she has to be like old as dirt. What we mean is born now, or like where she would be like 24, say now, and then never die or age much slower. We're not talking about her being in World War II again, because that is stupid.
Yeah, I know Diana should always be present day debuting, and her immortality is like present on. I really do not like the old as dirt 1940s Diana to present. No, no.
No, it's really stupid. So then we get to eternity. Now, Britt, there's something I'm gonna read you. It's this bottom image right here of Shiera going, "I remember you, Carter." So Blackest Night happens, and they are some of the characters that are killed by and turned into Black Lanterns. And in the beginning of the story, Shiera. So throughout like this period of DC, so Shiera and Kendra are the same woman. It's just at this point she's going by Kendra, and she and Carter are like relatively partners, but he's in love with her, but she's not, because she's like, I don't know you. I'm a different person than the woman you remember. So they have this conversation again during Blackest Night. They're killed by Black Lanterns, and then when they're brought back by the White Lantern Force of Life, so they have this moment where Hawkman is looking at Kendra, and he goes, "Kendra, are you all right?" Kendra, and then she goes, "Kendra, Shiera Sandman, I remember everything. I remember our past lives. I remember our times we're at the Justice Society and the Justice League. But most of all," she takes off her helmet, "I remember you, Carter. Oh, Carter. Oh, how I've missed you." And then they kiss.
Aww.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool that when they're brought back to life, she remembers everything. Because I think he does, but she doesn't. But then at this point, no, she is like, she remembers him, and I believe they have I believe in Brightest Day, one of the tie-ins, if I remember correctly. Actually, hang on, I can get that. I have that trade. You know me, I have everything associated with Green Lanterns.
Right.
Okay, so hang on. So I believe they go to war against this cult. And I think Shiera is like tortured or something like that. But the point is, I think Shiera dies.
Yes, at some point she dies,
which is unfortunate. But and again, here's the interesting thing, Britt, about this. If you remember from my Green Lantern episode, so at one point, so history lesson time, the Guardians of the universe, I almost said of the galaxy, oh man, were going to purge themselves of all emotion, because they felt that to be guardians of the, okay, I'm gonna say it, Guardians of the Galaxy, they have to not have like emotion. So a few of the Guardians, the female ones, leave. because they're like, no, we need to have emotions because always we're like robots. They retreat to a planet called Zamaron. On Zamaron, they find the skeletal remains of two lovers locked in a passionate embrace. And based upon the love between these two, create the Star Sapphire Corps, which is essentially the Pink Lantern's Carol Ferris. That that couple that's love creates the energy that creates the Star Sapphires is Hawkman and Hawkgirl.
Oh, you did tell me this.
In one of their reincarnations, that's what happened.
Yes. Yeah, that is very interesting for the couple. When it's things like that that's emphasized more than just, I guess, surface level type things, and you really do the deep cuts of the lore and how, certain aspects of DC and certain things that it all connects, that is something that I'm far more interested in than the fairy tale type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I like how they subtly link things together that when you find that out, because it's not like an essential detail, but when you find that out, it makes everything so much like better. Because I'm like, oh, really? So they are like that linked to like the Green Lanterns, which you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love how like I've seen these images so many times because we keep using them for the show, by the way.
Because first of all, that is my favorite. Well, besides Power Couple, I would say that this is like my top 5, maybe top 3, a story for Diana, because it shows that the burdens of immortality, but she still remains, the same, and she creates a universe. Like, that is something that is so big for her, and it's also goes within the Tomorrowverse too. But also how her relationship with Clark, and what that means is that though they are the last, and they don't let, even though they couldn't control it, or where the earth is getting swallowed up by darkness or whatever, they still continue to fight. And that just pretty much shows how their relationship is they don't go off to Olympus or anything like that. And before Crisis, when they married Diana off to Steve, I believe that she either gave up her immortality, or it was that her and Steve ended up on Mount Olympus. And it's kind of like that is something that Diana never wants. But for some reason, when Clark and Diana are with Lois and Steve, they go beyond. And like I said, there's projections of the things that these fans say that Clark and Diana, would do together, in a sense of thinking that they are above. They do that very thing with Lois and Steve. And you also have where he who shall not be named, that's ruining Wonder Woman. You have him.
I think for the purpose of this episode, until he leaves Wonder Woman, we may have to take him out so we can talk about the name, because otherwise I'm gonna get a copyright ding for how many times I play that clip.
But you have him write Clark as immortal, and he lets the world burn, but he made immortal juice for Lois to stay alive, and also for
she's president of the world. And I'm like, that when they did that, or when they did that to like Deceased, I'm like, why? Right. What qualifies her besides being Lois Lane?
Exactly. So
no, I'm telling you, that must mean she's the queen of hell, because how else would she have experience leading a country?
Oh my goodness. Let's get back on. Yes, but yeah, so you have these type of instances where it's kind of like, okay, how is this okay romantic? And then you demonize the same type of even if it was to be a story, you demonize it for another couple, that doesn't make sense at all. And also, half the time, it's stuff that doesn't even happen with Clark and Diana. It's just stuff that they think will happen. And also, again, the projection of it happened to with their couple and they love it, romanticize it, or whatever, and they think that, or they try to, force that on Clark and Diana.
Exactly. Randy asked, how many times has Superman given up his powers for Lois? Too many times.
Yeah.
So then we go to inevitability. And Barry Allen actually brings up an interesting point. It always ends with them. That's the solace I take when it comes to DC. Yeah, they're always going to end up together eventually because no matter what Tom King wants, Lois is going to die eventually. So there you go.
Yeah. And we see from, well, I think this issue was from 86, I want to say it was the DC Presents 32. Let me look that up right quick. But even in that, it says that there are some things that are inevitable, regardless of how. With that story, it's Arrows. He falls for Diana. Diana rejects him, so he puts a love spell on her. Her and Clark. And within that, it is very much weird shenanigans going on, and they have to find this flower for them to basically fall out of love and with each other, and dismantle the spell or whatever. But within that story, there are hints or such that those feelings are actually real. So you have this panel here where they are looking at each other and they are having this moment. Then when they feel like they have to reject it, that's real feelings. That was the same thing that happened within Post Crisis of George Perez. He was much better in establishing Clark and Diana as a potential pairing. And then you have John Byrne wreck it, with his,
as he does.
Yeah.
Because he wanted Superman to be with a 14-year-old girl.
Jerry. And so you have that. But later on you have Kingdom Come, which again shows how Clark and Diana do end up together later on. And it's not so much as I can't stand it when people say, well, Lois is going to die, so it's basically like the relationship of convenience or so, or it's a relationship that only because she died. No, they have already had that established together. It was basically like a right person, wrong time type thing. And that is even something that's compelling because there is people who are best friends and they're with other people, but they have that sort of different connection with someone else, and they end up, together later on in life. But it's not about another person; it's about their relationship and how it's built.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we kind of have that thing about with the Hawks. It's like I said before, the reason why they can never pair Hawkgirl with like a girl, it's because it's not Endgame at all. Eventually, it's just going to lead to that. And plus, when they die, it's essentially a reboot of the character. So either way, it's not going to work. But Barry says, so Oliver can have two love actions we don't get with Dinah. Peter can get with Gwen or Black Cat on top of MJ. Batman can get with Becky and other women, but Clark is always with Lois. Wild. I know. By the way, I will say this. A few people overemphasize how many times that Oliver has cheated on Dinah. It's not that much.
That, and at some point, I believe that he was actually assaulted. So it's some things that's kind of like it's taken out of context too, to make it seem like he cheated, but he didn't. And as far as other relationships, yeah, other relationships are very secure because with Peter and MJ, Peter and Felicia, because honestly, you can have them both balanced as popular, but and even Batman and Bruce and Selena, or Bruce and Talia, these relationships have a big fan base where either one can be recognizable, and it's not so much as overshadowing each other. But with Clark and Lois, or Diana and Steve, these relationships are dated, and it's not for the general audience. Really, it's more so like you're, in a sense, conditioned to accept them. But if you had other options, you will go with that other option that's far more appealing, which is Clark and Diana, because you can market the relationship much better, and it does
You
stand
can't
out.
tell me if you did an event called The Wedding of Superman and Wonder Woman, you can't tell me that book would not sell off the rack.
Exactly. Right.
You saw what the sales were for a comic of just them dating, them getting married. There is absolutely no way they would not do that. By the way, I would have the issue, come out on the day that Wonder Woman joined the overall DC universe. So in other words, I would find out what's the day that like DC Comics themselves incorporated her in. So that way you could make it on like the first day they met. That's the day you release the wedding of Superman and Wonder Woman.
This is why, DC should go ahead and call you up, because you have good ideas that would, give them at least a boost, or, much better than what they have right now.
Exactly. Barry says, wonder how different things would be if DC had owned Diana from the start, or just put them together in post-crisis. I doubt we live in the lowest central world. Maybe, but see, if DC owned the full rights to Wonder Woman, with her low sales, I'm convinced they would have canceled the book, at least for right now, and giving it a break instead of like carrying it on like it's an animal that had 3 of its 4 limbs chopped off and is riddled with bullet holes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much that. I know, really graphic imagery, but still, predestined.
Yeah,
by the way, predestined versus chosen love, and hello, Hyperman.
Okay, so with this, again, Clark and Diana are very much best friends falling in love. They've gone through, a lot during the decades, and they, um, in story, out story, with editorial, there is still some type of, um, you know, uh, gravitation towards each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, with the Hawks, it is something that is already set in stone, that you don't really have to, you do have to get to that point of, with the writing, you have to make sure that it's compelling, but it just seemed much more easier for that. With Clark and Diana, you have to really go beyond, that comfort zone of that is set, and you have to really um, just put them in a place where you really resonate with their emotions, and resonate with their relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And again, so to a certain degree, so here's the thing. As we mentioned before, having predestined like it's gonna happen, that can, in the hands of lesser creatives, most of which are on our "He Who Must Not Be Named" list, it would turn into like without any stakes. Here's how we know that it literally, like I said before, you want to talk about there's no stakes with Superman and Wonder Woman. There was no stakes with Lois, because again, she'll live, or the writer will invent some BS way of getting her out of danger, like where she somehow knows how to use the Hellbat suit, which, by the way, is powered by your very bodily functions and like draws life. It draws power from your life force. So I don't know how Lois knows how to drive that. Also, why would Bruce teach someone how to use the Hellbat suit?
Right.
it gets to, this is why I said Lois is the Rey Skywalker of DC, because that's pretty much what she is. By the way, Hyperman is Clark's true successor. Agreed. Barry says, keep saying it. It makes no sense for Clark to choose Lois over Diana, which is not what happened, despite what people who didn't read claim. Lois reads like a rebound in Post-Crisis and Rebirth. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about this from an editorial standpoint, Lois was, or she was with Coward Superman. So there you go. Now, Brit. So as you guys know, whenever we do crossovers, we write a little story in terms of like how this could look. So Brit, wow me.
Okay, for this story, this is a multiverse hyper time, jumping type story. So this is basically inspired by the Kingdom, where we have where we see Jonathan, Clark and Diana's son, older, much older, but we will see him. I would say Dan Mora's design is just top notch.
Superb.
Yeah.
Superb.
So with this, you have the Hawks. Of course, you start where they are in Egyptian time, and they are in a battle. And at this time, a rift happens. So they are transported into hypertime, and in present day, Clark and Diana the same within a battle, and they are transported within this hypertime type weird displaced area. And I wanted to say anti-monitor.
I saw you used him, which for a story that's dealing with like the multiverse, that would be the villain to use.
Yeah, because but a new design and just a little updated design, and because he is kind of like getting energy and sucking up different timelines, and it is more than just Earths. It's also, of course, timelines and different things like that. And of course, you have Hyperman, who is the protector of timelines and different Earths and stuff, and he needs help from his parents and the Hawks.
Exactly. So continuing on, then we go to this second bit of the synopsis. There's our boy.
Yeah. So within this, they are pretty much how Crisis was when you go to different Earths and they try to save it, but they also see within this Earth or timeline their relationships. We know the Hawks, they are destined to be together. So that's something that's really, it's not a surprise for them. But with Clark and Diana, you see with them going through different timelines and different Earths, how their relationship starts, or where it is, or if it's ending. And yeah, it's like the Shelterverse, when we have all these different stories of different, exploring different layers and time periods of Clark and Diana's relationship. And to have this son that is also guiding them, it elevates the story a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And so so it deals with a lot of like reincarnation stuff, which is dope, and I really appreciate that. Then we get to so some more of the synopsis. Man, you wrote a lot.
Okay, yeah, because honestly, with this story, it also, of course, yeah, we're making it, but it's also like one story that we can explore in the Shelterverse.
Are we adding another world to our multiverse now?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, especially with this story, because we are, like I said, dealing with, in a sense, it's a like how we are doing Shelterverse of, you are seeing Clark and Diana's relationship of different time periods, and this one is actually dedicated to that. That this is a, to see Clark and Diana, or even in, time periods, as in their relationship, but also different time periods of, you know, of the world. So you can have 1920s Clark and Diana. You can have prehistoric Clark and Diana. You know, you can have
Caveman Clark and Cavewoman Diana.
yeah, you can have them far out futuristic or something. You can have them I don't know, the Jurassic League, you know, something like that,
Oh
something
God.
wacky. You
Na,
know,
na, 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 na.
you can have them where they are the best of friends and they don't actually get together romantically, but you know that they are still linked together. They can be romantically first starting their relationship, in the middle of their relationship, or at the not so much at the end, but them older and they've already had this established family. Or we can have them as enemies where they hate each other completely. Um, or enemies to lovers in a very respectful manner. You know, just things like that. Just a showing how no matter how you have their relationship, it is still something that is important to their character, and that bond is something that remains
Q-
constant.
QT brings up, what if Clark and Diana had a daughter named Fury, like a screw you to Steve?
That would be funny.
Well, we already know that, if I wrote if I gave Wonder Woman a daughter, I would name her Unity instead of Trinity, because Trinity
Right.
makes no sense. It's so stupid. But anyway, so then we get to, no, Steve Trevor should not be a Green Lantern. So no, it's squabbling. So then synopsis continued. Man, you always write a lot, which I love, but it's like, wow.
Well, it didn't look like a lot.
Well, I had, in my defense, so I had to, because it's only so much text I can fit per PowerPoint slide.
Yeah, so it's probably not a lot, Jerry. You just had to separate it off.
I'm over exaggerating. It's good. It's good. I love it.
Um,
I love it. It's all fun.
so yeah, so of course we have where they finally are able to, um, in in a sense, track down the Anti-Monitor and stop them. You have the battle of the Hawks and Clark and Diana, but of course the one that really basically the final blow for the Anti-Monitor is Jonathan. And at the end of it all, Jonathan, he, I would say this story would be in his perspective. And it's kind of like how he learned, you know, to be who he was or who he is. And, you know, he's very proud to have Clark and Diana as his parents. And again, it really shows um, that he has a balanced, uh, you know, he's balancing the honor of his parents with the design of Dan Ma. Like the fact
Yeah,
that DC
that
hasn't
was the
done it,
most solid design. And Todd McFarlane, I want that action figure.
yeah, I mean, that is something that is so unique and that really speaks to Clark and Diana's relationship. And, you know, because you have John, Lois and Clark's John, that's just, he's basically Clark 2.0, you
Here,
know.
right here.
Um, yeah. And then you have, if it is a daughter of Diana and Steve, she's just, I would say Fury was, she was so out there. It's kind of like she doesn't have the attachment to Diana at all. But now you have Trinity, where she kind of looks like a generic Wonder Girl. She doesn't really look. She doesn't stand out. Um, I remember when she first um, was shown, and they basically said like the colors and the stars and everything like that. it was very much like she was a part of the Superman family, as well. But yeah, she doesn't stand out. With Jonathan design, like I said, he's the perfect balance of the two.
Yeah, exactly. Randy says, "How about Steve be a Red Lantern because he's jealous of Clark and Diana?" I could see
That
that.
works. Yeah, that
That
definitely works.
definitely works. Plus, what would be kind of cool is if someone takes off his ring, because when you take off the ring of a Red Lantern, you kill them because the ring replaces their heart.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. So back to this. You know, I had to make a joke about killing Steve again. After all, he does belong 6 feet in the ground.
Oh my God. Stop.
Again, I never hated Steve Trevor more than before Tom King's Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Which I think that's like most people.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, Steve is, you wanted him to be important, but yeah, there's to make Diana choose between her sisters and Steve, or, that lack of emotion that she had towards her sisters. I think that really set the fandom off because Steve's death was so forced and it was so dumb because he just got shot. Like and it wasn't really a heroic death. And like you said, I didn't even know that. I'm really not reading the dialogue, but to know that he found Sovereign's address in his car, or that how Diana took the flag, but she still has not. What Tom King isn't showing is that Diana, she's not. It's not like she's going to like Steve's place to be, around things that he has had or anything. We haven't seen that. So
She just
how
steals a flag, and beyond the utter stupidity of her holding an American flag and crying, it's the fact that she never had never had a previous attachment to the American flag.
right?
So story wise, it does make sense. But anyway, more on that later. We keep getting off track. I know we really want to talk about, but we're almost there. So anyway, conclusion.
Okay, so within this, like I said, Hyperman is he well, Anti-Monitor is defeated. Hyperman is able to stabilize the multiverse, and again, he's just showing Clark and Diana the timeline now, that his timeline basically. And there is he reiterates that no matter what, they will have that bond. And again, this image from the kingdom of showing the different, um, Earths and timelines, it all comes together in this web of unlimited storytelling. And
Which
that
is
is
funny, by
something.
the way. I just noticed this. There's an image of Hawkman and Hawkgirl in here.
Really? Oh, so I picked the perfect image.
You literally did. I'm like, I'm looking at this. I'm like, okay, there you go.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't even notice that. I just wanted it for the imagery of hyper time. I didn't think of that, but a cool detail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the pairs, return to their respective times and Earths, and they pretty much wrap up, reflecting that if we are to be together, if we aren't going to be together, if it lasts, if it don't last, just anything like that, whatever happens, we do have that constant connection somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
And again, especially with Clark and Diana, it's always going to be sometimes the right person, wrong time, or it's best friends that's falling in love, or, you know, and things like that. But it's still a healthy way of storytelling. Then you have the Hawks, which again, you were just going through their life, and it's basically a regular Tuesday for them. It's like, oh, we are going to be reincarnated at some point.
It's that meme of James Franco turning to someone and going first time.
Yeah, it's something like that. So that's basically it for that story. It's just um a story that honestly we would end up doing because DC isn't creative enough to do so. But yeah, it also just blends them together of a relationship that is destined, but a relationship that has a little bit more of an uphill battle to get to, but they still have that constant connection.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, so then we get to Absolute Wonder Woman #4, which okay, so I need to say this. Obviously, I took Tom King's Wonder Woman off my pull list for now because I literally have peak Wonder Woman here. And so here's the thing. This is where this gets really funny. Is that so Tom King intentionally like leaves out all of Wonder Woman's female characters like Etta Candy, Vanessa Capitalis and Julia Capitalis and Veronica Cale. What is Kelly Thompson literally put in issue 4?
Right.
It's almost like the screw you, Tom King.
Right. It is. And honestly, that was really something to have both issues come out on the same day.
Yeah, and by the way, can I say, so again, I'm gonna say this, and I can't wait to see the sales numbers for this because I want to see this destroy it. I gotta say this: the coloring on this book is superb. I mean, the way her arm glows as it's regenerating. I know some people don't necessarily like the art of this book. I disagree, particularly even like the design of Hecate, and when you see like. You can definitely see a lot of Wonder Woman Historia in this because I looked at like the design of Hecate and Historia. It's pretty much that. And again, and you also have, by the way, Diana speaking Greek. When was the last time Diana spoke Greek?
That's true. She hasn't.
That's something someone pointed out because right there in this panel, that's Greek. So I'm like, oh, really? I really like that.
The only time Diana, in reference to the Greek language, was when she wrote a love note to Clark in '52.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was in Greek. But
and it was even a side thing. It wasn't even dialogue. But
right.
with this, I'm like, oh wow. And then she literally, her sword gets giant, and she just destroys this creature. And I'm like, oh, see, this is what Wonder Woman should be. Wonder Woman fighting a kaiju and actually having fun, not being depressed all the time because her boyfriend got killed. And then again, I swear, if Capitalis, if the Capitalis is, okay, Squabble Lane, I'm gonna have to tell you to please stop. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you that right there. So, I swear, if Absolute Wonder Woman brings in Julia and Vanessa Capitalis, I will never say I will never say anything bad about Absolute Wonder Woman ever again. Because again, I'm telling you, they should be in the main book, but they're not. And if Tom King is trying to like say I'm not going to use these portions of Wonder Woman's story, I'm like, nope, that's it. That's it. If they show up in this, I'm going to be like, okay, so basically Absolute Wonder Woman has become a more Wonder Woman book than Wonder Woman.
That's true.
Brit, do you see why I was so defensive about this book?
Yeah. I mean, what I was looking at is, okay, again, still my only critique was that it was following the rebirth, status quo, because that is very blatant that this is, rebirth of Steve and Etta and Minerva And now you do have Kale. However, the way it is written and how Diana, her relationship with Cersei, I would say that Cersei is, she needs a little bit more. However, after issue 4, and Cersei, she does have like a subplot going on where I guess she was supposed to be a little bit like a Gothel or a mommy dearest to Diana, but she learned to love Diana, and now she has like this regret to her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is very much an interesting plot line to explore of, you know, Cersei was, she's supposed to be a villain, and now you have her as the adoptive mother of her adversary, and and having Diana teach her, or because Diana is so loving, that pretty much rubbed off on Cersei, and now she sees um Diana, she wants to protect her instead of do whatever was the initial plan.
Well, leave it on that. Thompson kind of started that with issue 1 because remember, when they show that montage of the cave becoming more of a home, Cersei brought up about how Diana's so loving and kind of softened her, and I'm like, yeah, this is why I love Absolute Wonder Woman, because by all and when people say she's basically Kratos, I'm like, by all accounts, she should be. But with all of this, the way it's set up, she should be. I could see why they would get that. But she is still the same sweet Amazon that we know and love, despite being raised in hell alone without the Amazons. Just look at this.
Yeah.
It is superb. And then we get Veronica Cale. Who she's been in Wonder Woman stories since Rebirth, so it's not like she hasn't been seen that much, but it's like, again, Thompson is bringing in Wonder Woman's world better than Tom King is read at all.
I would say, yeah, and with there's also the more of her backstory in it starts in issue 5, doesn't it, or 6?
Mm-hmm. Which was what?
How Diana grew up in hell.
I think it's this. I think that I don't remember exactly which issue Kelly said was going to be that one. I assume it's the next one.
Okay, so either way, I would say that even though my critique only is, the sort of rehashing of Rebirth in as far as the casting. However, if Kelly brings in Julia and Vanessa, yeah, I take back what I said.
Yep.
And with the fact of having Etta and, well, I guess the new character that Kelly teased, well, obviously was Etta's sister. So,
which that's cool, and I like making Etta and her sister witches.
Yeah, that is something that I would much rather have that than Etta be sidelined or a secretary or within the military in basically under Steve. I just don't like that, especially if she is a woman of color. I just think that is, and that was too much. And also she is kind of like she was written as the nice Waller.
Yeah, that's true. But even with this, it works with this Wonder Woman being a witch. So it's kind of like it links her to Diana a little more secure than, for instance, her being in the Navy with Steve, or the Army, or the Marine Corps, or whatever the hell branch DC decides to put him in this week, because it changes so often.
Yeah. I mean, they don't know what to do with Steve, so they try to boost him up. I mean, for Diana to create that statue, and it was basically him in a generic like army uniform or whatever. It, yeah, he just looked like some guy for
Yeah,
real.
here's because again, even his honor is generic.
Yeah.
But all in all, solid. And again, so this is what I say. So I recently did a Twitter posting. I've taken Tom King's Wonder Woman off my list. Now you may be wondering, Jared, you did that before. Now here's why I put it back on the first time. There wasn't an alternate Wonder Woman book that was actually ongoing and great. Now that there is, I realize I don't need Tom King's Wonder Woman. I have this. So
Yeah.
this has gone from my comfort Wonder Woman book to my only Wonder Woman book. And you know what? I'll take it because now I don't dread picking up anything labeled Wonder Woman anymore because I know chances are I'm going to get a really solid story with this.
Yeah. And I, with Scott Snyder, he also said that the main line is, even though he's, collaborating with Williamson, is still being suffocated by uh, being quote unquote conservative. And I guess what he means by that is
Not taking risks.
that being yeah, not taking risks, being safe, and it is pretty much by the numbers. It's they can only try to go so far of being interesting, but at the same time, it's very much overhyped, you know. And with this, I think that it still plays safe a little bit, but it is something that you expect this to be in the mainline Wonder Woman, not in an alternate universe.
Yeah, but I'll take it because you know what? I definitely dig this, and it should be in the mainline book. A lot of what's not necessarily the hell part, but I think the reverent, because here's the thing: Tom King claims he read a lot of Wonder Woman before this. I'm like, I doubt that, but okay.
Yeah.
Lie detector determined that was a lie. With this, I have no doubt that Kelly Thompson is a Wonder Woman fan. Zero doubt. She is putting in too many references and getting them right. Even for an alternate universe, she's getting them right for too many things for this to be an accident.
Right. I believe she said that her only issue was um Azzarello, with the Amazon. And I think that's pretty much universal, that everyone had the problem with New 52 Amazons. Even if Azzarello wanted to do the redemption arc, I just feel like that wasn't something to do. But other than that, with Diana staying, with her purpose of looking for the Amazons, embracing her, who she is as an Amazon, Cersei telling her that this is who you are, that is so much better, 1,000,000,000 times better than Tom King disrespecting the Amazons and veering the narrative to just be about Steve and Trinity.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Again, this shows me that Thompson was a Wonder Woman reader. She even told you a book that she recommends before you read this book, Historia. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. You're definitely showing me that. So then we go to the Superman, the Joshua Williamson Superman interview. So again, it's like, so he is immortal, and they're basically I love, so you know what this kid's kind of showing me? It's exposing that Lois is useless unless she has powers.
Yeah. I mean, to say that it's a romance book. No, Superman wasn't.
It's never been a romance book. What are you talking about?
The only time it really geared to that with Donner, but other than that, Superman has always been. It's called Action Comics, for goodness sake, and even the Superman solo title, it's never really about like the romance. And the fact that you put Lois in that category of that's all she is a uh romantic interest. And yeah, her only means of relevancy right now is having powers. And it's also relishing in those powers in the sense of he's saying that she can help him do more, which again is really showing how, oh, so if she was a regular reporter, that means that she's not doing more to help the world, which is funny because, the fans glorify her being a reporter and this supposed speaker of truth, and um, and how just being a reporter is so important, and she is an equal, and her pen is powerful.
Yeah,
But yet,
exactly.
but now they're saying that, well, with the power, she can be an equal. She can do more. And is also, again, glorifying the powers instead of their relationship actually to, you know, as of what it's supposed to be. So yeah, here you go with the double standards of Superman. And we also see in the Superman book how, yeah, they might save the day or something like that, but it's very glossed over. And what Williamson is doing is, um, with the Doomsday thing, he's giving Lois like PTSD for how Clark died uh, by Doomsday. And it's kind of like, okay, so that's her only motivation is that she saw him die by Doomsday. I think that is so, I don't know, it's just, um, again, putting her in just that checkbox of a romantic interest, and that's all she's worth, basically.
Yeah, well, that's true there. So then I'm sorry, we have to do this, Brit. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. What the hell is happening with this Wonder Woman book? I'm sorry. We have to talk about this. So we're gonna bring up this. Okay, so we're gonna talk in the next slide. We're gonna talk about how awesome this was because here's the thing. All right, so we're gonna start with this. So issue 17 launched to critical bombing. So let's say this. Hey, Jid, what's up, brother? Yes, King off Wonder Woman. Thank you. We'll talk about that in a second because, again, this has been a weird ass week ever since this hashtag thing started. It's been weird. So Wonder Woman literally makes a statue to Steve Trevor, and she has him on a pedestal, and I'm literally like, are you freaking kidding me? And also, instead of her daughter playing with a Wonder Woman toy, she's playing with a Batman toy. We get it, Steve, that you have this hard-on for Batman, but you're writing Wonder Woman. As I said in my Twitter video, you're writing Wonder Woman. Get over it or get off the book. That's it. That's the way we're going to deal with this. So then you get, so she literally makes it and is talking about how gorgeous Steve is. And I'm like, we get it. You want Steve Trevor. But then, okay, here's where I'm really pissed. The end of the issue has Wonder Woman, has the Sovereign like in his last stronghold. It's the White House. So he's at the White House. And with this image, there's Wonder Woman with an explosion. So I'm like, are they going to blow up the White House? Besides that way, I'm wondering, was this written because, was the Sovereign being in the White House written because Trump won? Is this a veiled anti-Trump thing?
Definitely.
Probably was, knowing Tom King, but still, I'm like, dude, this is, no matter your feelings on who won the election, this is not the time to be making a political statement in a book. Because those bomb books, as was established previously with John Kent's Superman book, you're already on thin ice with this Hellspawn from Satan book. And then 3, whatever. See, I'm so discombobulated I can't even count. You get if you do blow up the White House, that's not going to look good, bro.
Yeah, I mean, you can make political statements because these characters are political, but in this time, you have to. It, it's it's so much more than that. It's not black and white, and you have to. I'm not saying walk on eggshells because within art and within the comics, you are supposed to um, you know be free to freedom of speech and
Mm-hmm.
and all.
Yeah, exactly.
However,
But if you're gonna blow up the White House in a superhero book, I'm like, if anything is a character assassination of Wonder Woman besides everything you've done in this run, it's that.
yeah, and also I just with Wonder Woman and having her as a fugitive, with having her, well, first
Yet
she
a
didn't
member of the
care,
Justice League.
yeah, and also she didn't care for her sisters, obviously, and she's well, you're making her obsessed and in love with a military guy, so yeah, she's double standards there. So to have her blow up the White House, but she's like I said, she's obsessed with a military dude, and
Seems kind of backwards.
and from issue 3, I believe, uh, well, it was the Sovereign speaking, but she basically says that, well, I mean, he basically says that Diana's Diana being accepted as a hero and accepted in America was basically because she was with Steve as a soldier because he is, tied to the military. So they felt like now she can be accepted, which is very, very disrespectful to her character, regardless if a villain is saying that I mean, Tom King, the way he has Diana written outside of the perspective of the Sovereign, he's basically proven that to be true. And it's
Yeah.
also
It, go ahead.
and it's also with how the Sovereign talks about Steve is that it seems like, and maybe he's changing it and he wants to glorify Steve, but it seems like Steve was, well, you have Trinity say that he's unmissed, and then it apparently she doesn't like him because of how Sovereign also talks about him, saying that just making remarks, and then you have Diana too, where in the beginning Steve was cursing at Diana and saying how yeah, he's seen her fight gods and stuff, but she can't take on the military, and then you have Diana basically being condescending towards Steve, and that build up supposedly of them being together in a relationship and romantic, yeah, that none of this, whatever Tom King is trying to build or force, is just not there.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. By the way, Barry is brings up I'm assuming he means if Tom King blows up the White House, especially following absolute power. That's crazy. Yeah, exactly. So then you may be wondering, Jared, what was the final push? So then they solicited the first issue after the Sovereign story. It's issue 20 of Wonder Woman. So there's a god killed on Olympus, and Diana calls in Batman to help solve it. And I'm literally like, okay, actually, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I am going to play the Twitter video that I made that I did because I think it summarizes my feelings on this way better than I ever could. So let's go. You're about to hear a nice Jared rant because I think Tom King deserves it because the man is a hack. The man has tried to get his editor fired. He tried to send a mob against Jay Lee and got rightfully called out. Didn't even apologize for it publicly. It's really stupid. But anyway, so here's the video. Are you ready, everyone? 3, 2, 1.
So let me get this straight. So the Sovereign story ends where Diana's already a side character. And what do? What do? Literally the next run, she is a side character for Batman. The character we know you really want to write, but you got kicked off the book because sales dropped and Hulk was outselling Batman. I get it. You're a little salty because your Batman run got cut short, so you were given a pity miniseries to complete your story. But you know what? Stop putting other characters into Wonder Woman where they're unnecessary. You're not writing Batman. You're writing Wonder Woman. Get over it or get off the book.
I think that rightfully sums up my points here.
Right. It does.
That's my problem, because I'm like, dude, you obviously would rather, you speak for all of us. Why, thank you, sir. So you want to see, here's the thing. This all the more brings back my feeling that Tom King doesn't. I think that Tom King hates Wonder Woman. That's what I'm going to tell you there. I think he hates Wonder Woman, hence the case that he keeps calling her parenting expectations toxic. Arguably, Diana should be the best mother ever. But no, that would require someone that actually likes her to write it. And he would rather write other characters. So he's using the Wonder Woman book as like a cameo book so he can write other characters like Detective Chimp, Clark Kent, Batman. And I'm like, just go write Batman. You can't tell me they're not going to give you a Batman series, a miniseries. They had you write a Penguin book.
Honestly, with King and his nepotism.
Yeah, because, ladies and gentlemen, he only got the job at DC because his mom was an executive at Warner Brothers.
And now it's more so because he's besties with Gunn. But he's basically in the same category as Tom Taylor. They can do Elseworlds because obviously Elseworlds, even though you want the characters in character, but you can go off and do whatever you want to do, with your Elseworlds. But in canon, the fact that he was fired off Batman and then Heroes in Crisis, basically started a fan crisis. And
a fan crisis, that's so good.
And then all of his other books, Jenny Sparks as well, that's something that
Jenny Sparks everyone hates.
Yeah. If 9 times out of 10, if all of his books have a problem,
By the way, Jenny Sparks is in continuity.
Well, that's messed up. That means that Clark was with Lori, but it also means that he had a one-night stand with Jenny, which is...
And it also says that like he was admonished for not doing anything against COVID.
That is so...
Why does COVID have to happen in the DC universe as well?
I don't know. Honestly, that's why I said Tom Taylor and Tom King are the one and the same, really, because they're the only two.
They're the evil Toms of DC.
Yeah, because they are the only two that even acknowledged COVID, which if you are, like I said, with real world events and stuff, it kind of like having the president, like during the 52, we had Obama in practically every issue of different books.
Or it's like they literally did an issue, Marvel did, for the inauguration of Obama, where Spider-Man was hanging out with Obama.
Right, or that He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Or that Marvel, you'll love this, did a story where an alternate version of Donald Trump is MODOK.
Oh my God. Oh, I think I saw.
You probably have seen that. And I'm like, guys, we get that you don't like Trump. And again, I'm not taking a political statement on the show. What I'm saying is that it's really tacky writing. And by the way, Jid brings up an excellent point. It's so insensitive to use a pandemic like COVID-19, which has killed millions for a subplot. Brit, Jid, remember, this is Tom King we're talking about. Nothing's insensitive for this man.
Exactly. If anything, he wants to, whatever type of PTSD or guilt he is, suffering through, he wants to use these characters as to vent out his issues.
Which,
And
ironically, his working out his PTSD with DC characters actually gives all of us PTSD.
it does, because the characters become unrecognizable.
Yeah, this is not Wonder Woman. This, by the way, someone else came up with a great, like, what's the word? Nickname for this Wonder Woman: Wonderless Woman.
Yeah.
That's better than I gotta be honest. That's better than Unwonderful Woman. That was my friend Nick's. Nick, shout out to you. But anyway, so then so it's, and I love how it's the team up that that fans have always wanted. But I'm like, you act like they never teamed up before, or B, there was such a big like call for a Batman Wonder Woman team up. There wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know who writes the synopsis or solicits for some of these books, but
Probably the marketing people. Or watch, it's Tom King.
I believe that Tom King did. I would have to look that up, but I believe he did write some of the solicits or synopsis for his Batman line. I will have to look that up.
That sure would make sense.
But yeah, if that's the case and he's writing them, first of all, the overhype needs to end. And
it sure would make sense why the solicits keep labeling Steve Trevor as her greatest love.
That too. Yeah, because that honestly makes sense because of his dialogue within the book of Diana calling him lovely and stuff like that. That was really obnoxious and so like, okay, again, the statue that she made was very generic and very like,
well, because Steve is a generic guy, that's why.
Yeah, and then what he was saying, well, what he had her say, it wasn't about Steve being like this heroic and having this this great personality, because obviously he doesn't have personality.
Yeah, he doesn't. Or it's that he was beautiful.
It was just that and honestly, glorifying his looks in a sense of, again, a military guy, an American, a very conservative, generic American, I would say. Yeah, that really, and also the fact that King said that he liked Steve because he felt like, with both of them being within the military, so it felt like King was basically calling himself lovely and having Diana, say that.
Which is kind of funny considering the fact that he was in the CIA. That's not the military.
Tom, I don't know. Maybe Tom doesn't even know the different rankings or something. I don't know.
He has my respect for. I respect that he served his country. I'm fine with that. I have no problems with that. But don't overhype yourself, dude. But anyway, so you may be wondering, what did we do when this issue launched? All right. Not only did this launch the same day as Absolute Wonder Woman, so this is the thing that I've been hyping up. So as you guys know, Brit, Jid, and I started the hashtags. I'm still giving you partial credit for this because you guys helped me. But so we decided to do a trending day like this, like my friends in the Snyderverse community do. Maybe wondering how'd that go? Stupendously is how it went. So I call it the Rebellion of the Wonder Fans. So I expect. So here's what I thought was going to happen. We were going to post we were going to do the trending day, and then it would be like, let's say, let's block. I love Jit. Look at the hashtag. Yes, I'll get to that. But so I thought we would get like 250 at least use of the hashtag. I didn't think it was this big. So we got 2.7 thousand uses of the hashtag. And 2.6 for the Trinity one. Engagement, 27.9 thousand. So, and 27.6, so around the same. that tells me that both of these go hand in hand. And Brit, what's the number to be considered trending?
I believe it is around 2000.
Well, I'm going to look this up because this is interesting.
Because I've seen some hashtag trend, and they were at least about 1,000 or so. But most of the time when it's comics, it would be in the 2K range.
Okay.
Though.
So the way they say it is that there's no specific number, but only a high volume of tweets with the same hashtag within a short time frame is needed.
Okay, so
we kind of had that.
Yeah.
So it trended. And not only that, but see, originally I thought, let's not talk about the Wonder Woman issue because I didn't want to give it attention, but no one paid attention to me. But I loved how everyone was tweeting. Hang on, I'm going to go back briefly. This one image right here. Everyone was using this as the example of this is probably the worst Wonder Woman run ever. And more people were using the hashtag than ever before. And again, I said this to Jid and Brit in our group chat. I have never been more proud of the DC fandom and the Wonder Woman fandom than I was that day. Like, guys, you far exceeded my expectations. And I'm just blown away. I am literally blown away with this.
I think because with the Wonder Woman, fandom, and she hasn't had any respect since her popularity skyrocketed with DCEU, the 2017 movie, and then it stayed relatively the same. Even with 1984 and how bad that movie was, it still just didn't ruin Wonder Woman's image, overall. It really didn't. But then you go into comics and now with DCU, and it's crickets for Wonder Woman within James Gunn's DCU. Even with Cersei in Creature Commandos, you have her basically a joke, and then Themyscira is used as a joke as well. Then with comics within this time, you haven't had a stable Wonder Woman run since. While yes, Rucka is a fan favorite, he still had his very petty, childish moments within that run of locking Diana up in a straitjacket. His run was mostly like he was throwing a tantrum.
Well, his first run was good. His second run was crap.
Yeah, that's what I mean. His with the Rebirth, and he was also throwing that tantrum with Dan Jurgens for New 52 and stuff like that. So it didn't truly just how it's aging isn't it's not aging that well. So within Rebirth and then from now, I think Conrad tried to do, the best that he could with collaborating with Cloonan, but they still sort of clashed with the way they presented Diana. You had Cloonan that wanted Diana to be like this party girl and the thirst trap thinking of Siegfried. Then you had Diana with Conrad that was more of the Diana that we know, that she wasn't really interested in caring for a romance, that she, just was doing adventurous type stuff for, but it just wasn't something that really resonated with the fans or kept interest, and her book was falling. So to have Tom King come in and he feels like he's boosting off the Wonder Woman book because of his self-insertion of Steve and stuff like that, Wonder Woman fans shouldn't feel like they have to accept that sort of thing because this isn't a Steve Trevor book. This is a Wonder Woman book. And for King to outright say, before when he was announced that he didn't want to, write Wonder Woman in the first place, and that the only reason why he took the job was because this very weird, egotistical, like challenge or whatever that he made up in his head to feel like he can best Perez. That is that is not how you go into writing a character. And also we see how he would much rather write Superman and especially Batman and also the Super Sons. And he was even confident enough to say that featuring Detective Chimp was basically his pitch. He using the Wonder Woman book as a pitch for a Detective Chimp book. So yeah,
if him writing Detective Chimp takes him off the Wonder Woman book, please do.
Right, but it's still definitely. However, it's still the fact that he feels that he can really, just be disrespectful towards the character and the fans. But we know, for sure he would not do that to Batman fans.
Exactly. Well, a lot of Batman fans felt disrespected, but so I want to bring up this. So here's what Jid and I are talking about. We both got blocked by Tom King on Blue Sky because he was promoting the book, and Jid and I both said, can you write characters other than Steve Trevor and actually write Diana the way she's meant to be? And Jid had like a thread that he was writing. I'm like, man, brother, you had time for this. And we both got blocked. Apparently, King was like blocking a lot of people that day, which that's not going to stop us. We're still going to tweet the hashtag and tag you in DC and everything we do, because if you don't want to write Wonder Woman, it's very simple. You just take out your laptop, open up an email saying, I'm done at like 25. Give yourself some time, get a better writer. That's it. But what I want to bring up here, and this is something that I thought of today. This is my message to the Wonder Woman fandom. And Brit kind of alluded to this, but I'm going to bring this up. So this is a message, because Wonder Woman, like Brit said, Wonder Woman is a character that's not very respected. And you know what? Neither is the Wonder Woman fandom. And I'm going to tell you this. If you've ever felt like you didn't matter because you like Wonder Woman, or like because you're a Wonder Woman fan, then I want to let you guys know that you matter to us. I know I can talk for Brit for this, that you matter for us. We are going to be your voice for this character, because you know what? At this point, too much of what's happened to Wonder Woman is due to the fact that no one has given the fandom a voice to say, okay, stop it. We get that you have this obsession with making Wonder Woman basically an offshoot of Superman and Batman, and about giving her Superman and Batman sloppy seconds. I'm sorry, that's stopping now. Get a better writer on the book that actually respects the character, loves the character, wants to write the character, and is not using her book to pitch other books. I'm sorry. I know you would rather be writing other characters. Okay, well, there's a magical solution to that. It's called getting off the Wonder Woman book. It's not like you don't have other comic book work that you're doing right now. Free up some time. Get off Wonder Woman. But I'm going to bring up, but I want to say this. Again, we will be your voice. We are going to stand with you until forever, even beyond King leaving Wonder Woman. We are going to, that's why I dedicated now 2 of my shows to Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman Wednesday and this. It's always been like majorly focused on Wonder Woman, because this character means too much to too many people for DC to leave her out in the woods. So once again, you all matter to us. We will be your voice.
Right. And I mean, that if you don't want to write a character, it's not like he has a gun to his head, or that, DC would fire him if he didn't take the job. So he's not obligated to be on this book.
Particularly when you see people don't like, not enough, the sales are going down. You're probably going to leave the top 50, and then guess what? That you're getting a lot of backlash now from what you're doing. Why would you stay on this book?
Right, and not only that, but it's basically the same as his Batman book. When he said that when the marriage didn't happen, he had to get security at cons. He also, even with Batcat and the criticism, especially the fact that he had Bruce and Selena on vacation when Bane snapped Alfred's neck, he blocked fans for that. And it just seems like he doesn't want criticism. He also has his comments limited to who's following him, can only comment. But of course, that is who's following him. He feels like they're going to praise his work. And I feel like that
I'm
is,
following him.
I feel like that is very, dishonest and dishonest with yourself as a writer, because as a writer, as a creative, you are supposed to be open to constructive criticism.
That's part of art.
And
if you don't want that, don't write comics.
right. And it just feels like he wants his way and that's it, that's all. But you are ruining these characters and who they are meant to be. It's not about this dysfunctional romance type thing. And that's what he tried to do with Batman. Batman was suicidal, and his only means to live, or, with saying, can Batman be happy if he's with Selena or not? And he basically uh, he presented it as Bruce starting to resent being Batman because he couldn't be with Selena and being obsessed with her. And now you have Diana, basically doing the same thing of her forgetting about her sisters who were in prison and unalived. And now she's, and she was written basically to go all, about her way and moving like molasses or whatever when it came to doing something about the sovereign. But now that Steve is, dead, now she wants to act all emotional and still lack emotions. And you write that she's furious, that she's angry and stuff like that. No, that's not who Wonder Woman is. And
She's
also
not
I
this
feel,
wrathful warrior.
yeah, and I also feel like Tom King, what he wanted to do, no, he has not um bred Perez. I just refuse to believe that. But I think that he knew enough, of course, as um, you know, you can look it up on Wikipedia or whatever and the Cliff Notes. But I think that a lot of things that he didn't agree with, such as Steve not being the love interest and his already, unimportance, really downsized he wanted to elevate him. And again, he wanted that self-insertion, and that um he felt like he can basically put Steve on a pedestal as he did in the book. But yeah, that backfired because you can't do the same thing with Batman and Superman. uh well, you can't do the same thing with Wonder Woman that many writers do with Batman and Superman, especially Superman, because Superman is now in this sort of it, shackled to Lois because it feels like he can only be with her, and or else he is going to turn into a tyrant or something like that. And I feel like that's exactly how they feel about Diana. Is in order to make Steve and Lois, or Steve now, important to her, he has to be her sole motivation to be Wonder Woman, to leave the island, and to have her humanity and not um, turn into a tyrant herself.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where I'm like, exactly. If you don't like Diana, or if you don't want to write Diana, don't write. It's really that's if you'd rather be writing other characters. You can't tell me this is the only writing gig you're gonna get because you're Tom freaking King. You can't tell me that. You really you can't do that. I'm not gonna. You really. Okay, I'm gonna bring up this one thing. Haven Comic, please DM me on Twitter. I'm not gonna do self promotion on a live stream, please. She's also now a love-struck teenager who completely ignores her duties to be with Steve. Yeah, exactly. That is, or to mourn Steve. And people talking like she's a widow that lost her husband. A, she's not married, and B, that's not Wonder Woman. Stop trying to humanize these characters. They don't need that.
Exactly. The fact that you would say that that Diana is a widow to Steve when she wasn't even with Steve within this run until issue 13.
Wait, Pia asked a good question. Where's Emily?
Well,
I don't think Tom King even knows.
He said that she was a red herring. So, yeah.
Sure. I'm sure. I think it's most likely that Tom King forgot because you don't give it like that much space for 20. That's the thing. You mentioned about Tom King works better with like with what's the word? Elseworlds. He also works better if he's in a 12 issue mini or maxi series because he has a beginning, middle, and end. You put him on an ongoing and he just goes by red herring. She started the entire thing. I know. She only showed up in 2 parts, 2 places, and they're all in the first like I think 2 issues of the book or 3. The point is,
issues.
Yeah, actually, she showed up in the first issue to start the whole thing. Then the 3rd issue as a flashback. That's it. But she's only mentioned in those 3 books. That's it.
What's also funny is that when issue 3 was being hyped up, he said that Trinity's origin will be somewhat revealed, and it was, obviously in issue 3, it was said that Emily was pregnant. So now it's kind of like...
So he lied. This is what you're telling me.
Right. So within months of... Obviously, it's been months. So I'm pretty sure, it's been over 9 months in story and out. So...
Oh, and by the way, PP says it was issues 1 and 2. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to say this regarding Tom King.
He fills out his clothes like lentils fill out a sandwich bag.
Thank you, Zack Snyder. Oh, one more.
Dweeb.
That's it. No, I'm sorry. See, here's the thing. It's like, I remember he was on my friend Robert's stream, and he was trying to... So in Heroes in Crisis, during one of the interview scenes, he has Green Lantern say, what even is willpower? I don't know what that is. So he claims that was like him trying to say, what is the concept of willpower? He was trying to be very philosophical, and I'm like, dude... Stop it, okay? Just stop. Really, you need to stop this because you're character assassinating characters or trying to sound smarter than you are. And I'm sorry, that is just bad news, bro.
Right, neither works.
Neither works because it sounds pretentious as hell when you do that, which Tom King and pretentious, that doesn't go together. But it's also like... either that or it sounds like you don't understand the character, which honestly, again, both work. That's the funny part about this. But and by the way, P, I'm glad you found the live stream as well. Welcome aboard. So it's one of those things where I'm like, at this point, this is why we started the hashtag, because it's like ultimately, again, if you don't like the book, we're telling you we don't want you on the book either. So why are you staying? You're pissing off the fan base of the book. Besides your fans that will follow you to any book. If there's, like this way, if he had this legion of fans that would support him no matter what he did, if that was like any significant number, why are the sales going down?
Exactly.
That
You know,
I refuse. Like a friend of mine said, Tom King has so many fans, and I'm like, where are they? Either they're defending it online but not supporting the book. I'm sorry. Again, DC ain't a business. I mean, sorry. I mixed that up. DC ain't a charity. It's a business. If you don't bring in the sales numbers, you don't get to write the books. It's that simple.
exactly. And that's what happened with his Batman run. Because the sales dipped,
To when Hulk was outselling Batman.
Yeah, he was fired. And also, this is what happens with every, with Twitter. Twitter fans, they fuss and complain. They ask for other characters to get books and stuff. They ask for certain status quos, just like they ask for Lois and Clark to be together. But yet, look at the books that they aren't. Barely staying within the top 20 or barely staying within the top 50. DC is now in a state where they have to relaunch every 2 years. So yeah, these fans of Tom King, they don't care for Wonder Woman. They don't know Wonder
They clearly
Woman.
don't. Brit, here's how I know that. When I've asked them, how much Wonder Woman have you read before this? So like, admittedly, not that much. And I'm like, then you don't know why this is pissing off so many people.
Exactly. And especially again, when you hype yourself up as saying that you believe
You have this
that
vast comic knowledge. I'm like, where is it?
that and that
When James Gunn's wife is calling Tom King an encyclopedia for DC, and I'm like, well, that's concerning.
right, or that he's saying that he finds George Perez run, which is true. That's the only thing that he says, that is true, as the definitive run for Wonder Woman.
Then why are you contradicting it so much? Why did you have Wonder Woman punch her mom in the face? And why is Steve Trevor the center of Diana's world?
Exactly. But however, I feel like even though he said it was the definitive run, that again, he is doing things that he does not like, though. He's pretty much changing things that he felt I can do better or it should have been that way. So with Steve, knowing that Steve was not a significance in that sense of romantic, but a more of a father figure, and in that sense of a father figure or a big brother, he makes force this idea of Trinity having Steve as an actual father, to have Diana so obsessed and say that the fact that he said in an interview that Steve is the heart of Wonder Woman's story, overall, and that he is the reason why she became who she is. No, that is the
you
worst
don't know who
possible
Wonder
thing.
Woman is.
Yes, that is the worst possible thing to say, because Diana, if you read George Perez, in the very, she goes through the contest, she becomes Wonder Woman, the champion of her people.
She goes to man's
blessed
world
by the
before
gods.
she takes Steve back.
She's blessed by the gods before Steve, so it's kind of like, where in that you read that?
Jid brings up, and when people claim they read Wonder Woman, they only say Earth One, not anything like Perez, Luke Green, and Menace. Or in my case, someone said, I asked them, how much Wonder Woman have you read? They said, only like the new 52.
Yeah, which again, even that is a no, because with the Amazons and even Azzarello, he did not. It felt like he didn't want to write Wonder Woman. He wanted to write
Funny how that
New
happens.
Gods.
Which, by the way, again, with me, I read the Azzarello run. I consider it an Elseworld story. That's it.
Right. And, that book, for what it was, it's what it is. But he, I see that Azzarello, he isn't well liked by a lot of DC fans now, and how all of these stories are aging like milk powder. I mean, they are not giving fans something to truly invest in. And even the stories that they kind of like glorify, like Death of Superman, even that story, it is very superficial, very contrived, and something that is shouldn't be glorified. So a lot of DC writers now are yes men, and they will do the bare minimum but hype it up as in it's just going to be game changing. But for Wonder Woman, you can have that for Batman and Superman, because Batman fans will buy any and everything. For some reason, they just go with it. Superman fans are so desperate for Superman to get from under Batman as playing second fiddle, that they try to glorify things, they try to accept things, but the Superman sales are basically what they are. You know, it's going to be out the top 50 by within the first or second year.
And Wonder Woman is definitely going to be out of the top 50. But
yeah, and then Wonder Woman is going to basically be, the one that's disrespected.
I know. Barry Allen says Perez run annihilates so many arguments against Super Wonder. Too bad he had to make up that arbitrary reason for them not being together at the end. I'm just a farm boy and you're a goddess. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, go ahead.
That was Byrne.
Oh, yeah.
Because
he goes, I'm just a farm boy and a goddess, and I have to go make out with a 14-year-old girl.
Stop. Actually, Perez, he kind of cleaned that up a little bit, as to say that, and it was really a shot at Byrne, to say that Clark is, like the keeper of the status quo, and that Diana thought for him to basically be, in a sense, progressive and wanting to fight for better instead of fighting to keep the same things. And which is true. Superman is supposed to be that progressive character he is supposed to be the man of tomorrow, not the man of yesterday or the man of stagnation. So yeah.
Stagnation.
But yeah, if George Perez were to have been able to explore Clark and Diana's relationship as he intended, in the extent that he wanted to, yeah, a lot of these arguments could have been debunked a little bit more.
Yeah, Randy says Superman is playing second fiddle to Batman because he is dragging that dead weight known as Lois Lane. Yes, thank you.
That's true. Yeah.
Also,
Batman doesn't do ships.
Trying to find a way to do this. By the way, Dave Parallel, what's up, brother? Says, I never liked what Bruce Timm did to Hawkman and Justice Unlimited, both versions. Great show otherwise, but a weird character. Says, yeah, exactly. Right. Even after Action Comics 600, Clark was integral in his run. He's the first superhero Diana meets in post-crisis. Exactly.
Right.
And that's how you do cameos in a run. Not by having them do all the work in the run, but like, yes, a couple, like an issue or two, he could show up like he did in that one. But Diana is still the driving force of that run, which to say that when King says that this is based on the George Perez run, yes, I am streaming on YouTube as well, P, thank you. But when King brings up that this is like a tribute to George Perez, I'm sorry, that is the biggest insult I have ever seen. By the way, when I saw someone in like, you'll love this. So I was watching my friend Max Priestley's live stream, and he did one of really cringe people making best of 2024 comic videos. So what he did was, so this one guy, ironically, one of the co-hosts of the DC universe, of the DC studio streaming shows, brings up Tom King's Wonder Woman, and then brings up like all the stuff like that it's political, it makes you think, and I'm like, that's not a good thing. And then he brings up that it's up there or maybe even better than the Perez run.
Definitely no.
And then when I heard that, legit, this was my reaction.
Yeah, no. Like,
Yeah, no, it's let me put it this way. You know what's better than than this run so far? The Mesner Loeb's run.
well,
And that's
I
the
mean,
one where they put Wonder Woman in the biker shorts and like had at one point someone ask her to strip at a party.
oh God,
That's the run where Artemis became Wonder Woman,
Wonder Woman.
if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I mean, again, even just bringing that up, Wonder Woman has had some awful runs, more
Remember,
awful.
they wanted to do a story called the Violation of Wonder Woman.
Right, right. It's
Of course, Mark Millar. But anyway, someone said, "My God, don't even get me started on her eating lizards up in space." Yeah, I know, Jid, but at least she still acts kind of like Wonder Woman in those issues. That's what I'm gonna say. I will defend that run before I defend the King run at any point.
oh my
And
gosh, eating
remember,
lizards and eating rats.
what is it with Wonder Woman eating animals? Well, it gets worse because Brit. Here's the thing: they did kind of hint that like that was fake when Sovereign opens the door to her cell and the rat's still alive on her leg, and they zoom in on the rat. But still, it's the fact that Wonder Woman even describes the sensation of eating a rat, where I'm like, what the hell is this? But anyway, the point is with this is like at this point, this is contempt for the character is what I'm getting from this run. And which is why, again, the hashtag started. The hashtag is not, let me put it this way. You may be wondering, Jared, when will the hashtag stop? When Tom King leaves the book. Now, if the next writer to destroy is bad on the character, and we'll give them a shot. We'll give them a legitimate shot. We'll give them like, let's say 8 issues or so to impress us. It was 2 different rats. Oh, God. If it's true... Wait a second. I have to check something. I think Diana had blood on her mouth. So if that's true, oh my God, that's going to be stupid. But anyway, if I don't know what is it with Tom King and doing that, but she ate the male run and oh God, it gets worse. According to P, she ate the male rat, but befriended the female rat.
Of course.
But it says I ate my rat. So I have to reread that. No, I'm not going to reread that issue. I'm not. I'm done. It's to the point where I'm going to the comic book store next week. I'm going to sell back all my Tom King books, every single one of them.
At least, you know.
It's more space on my shelf.
Right. At least you are selling them back. Then some people would burn them or cut them up.
It's more of an impact device. Plus, I can actually buy good Wonder Woman books with that.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. I'm going to do it so I can say, hey, I actually got some quality books. And you better believe I'm going to tweet about it and tag Tom King. Because here's the thing. Never go to war with me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. I've gotten petty, but it's because, and this is partly Brit's fault.
What?
Because you made Wonder Woman my #1 favorite superhero.
Oh, well. I'll take credit for that. Okay.
Yeah, so I love how you're like, wait, what? But so that's why it hurts more. But I'm like, nope, I'm done. But luckily, again, I have a COP. But beyond that, it's like at least we have absolute Wonder Woman to keep us happy. But I think that's a good. Wait, only issue really worth rereading for me is Clark and Diana at the mall. But here's the thing. Well, first off, Diana fighting the military. She kills U.S. soldiers in that. Second off, Clark and Diana at the ball. The hype up that King tried to do kills it by Brit. Remember in the previous episodes to that, we were like, Tom King's going to screw this up. And he didn't screw it up, but he didn't do anything to impress us. He claimed it was a deep dive into the relationship. But Brit, how do you describe that?
It was a pinky toenail in a water bottle cap of a smidge of water.
Yeah, oh my God. It's like diving into a shallow pool. That's kind of what it was.
Not even that, Jared. It's not even that. It's just it's a tiny droplet. And it is a pinky toenail. That is it. Not even that. Because honestly, I don't even know what that issue was. It was so out there, and it just felt like he was trying to be funny in a very cringe, corny way that just didn't make sense for Clark and Diana. If you're going to do something like that, first of all, it can't happen in the middle of a fight. Like, she got beat up by Grail, and then you have this issue. Then
Who is,
she
by the
ends up,
way, wait, Grail, who is Dave brings up a good point. Issue of Tom King's Wonder Woman will give you a quarter and a piece of gum. Oh, I'm bringing back my trades as well. But it's not just Tom King's Wonder Woman. It's Tom King's Batman, Heroes in Crisis, everything that has Tom King's name on it. But it's like, remember, Grail is also a lackey. The daughter of Darkseid.
yeah. And she calls, isn't she the one that calls the Sovereign boss?
No, that was
that,
Giganta. But still, it doesn't make it any better. None of those villains would be the lackey. Well, actually, no. Psycho and Grail would not be the lackeys, because I could see Giganta being a lackey.
Right. But Cersei, and Angleman would be a lackey
Cersei too. What? Wow. What?
The fact that Cersei was taken out by a chimp.
And the Spectre, but still, I'm like, why would the Spectre get involved?
That was just
seems
so random.
Seems like King wants to write the Spectre as well. It's all the characters he really wants to write.
Yeah, and let him, like, get him off.
Let him go. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
destroy that character. I could care less.
Destroy that character.
It's Superman goes, oh, gross. You at Angleman. That was a gross panel between him and Cassie. There's a gross panel in every Tom King book, bro. Remember, he legit marketed, he promoted a book of Batcat with people F word in this issue.
Yeah. I mean, if that's all you care about with trying to sell a romance, I mean, even with Batcat, he made it. Bruce and Selena are very dysfunctional. And with that toxic nature, and however, they still have that, it's not so much as pure love, but you can tell that they have that love as characters, and they have their bond. But the way Tom King wrote their relationship was very dysfunctional, very toxic, in a manner of, you just didn't want them to be together. And even though he wanted to do, like, they're bad for each other, but they still want to be together type thing. Yeah, no, that was so off the rails. And that codependency, I can't stand when relationships are written as codependent and you need this emotional crutch and stuff like that. And also just making
that's not a healthy relationship.
Not at all. I do not like that. And to glorify that and to make it, you also using other female characters, the way he wrote Talia, very, had a...
We had Catwoman defeat Talia in a sword fight.
Yes. And then you plagiarize Immortal Beloved for Diana.
And by the way, so here's the funny part. So I recently read Sensational Wonder Woman, the digital first book. I got it as a trade. Literally the first story of that is that, stop me if this sounds familiar, Diana under a trance, imagining her being a 1950s housewife.
Wow.
It is literally that.
Well,
to the point where I was like, no, I'm sorry. Once is a similar. It is legit, and no, she in this one it's Dr. Psycho, but still she's under a trance. That's why we plan on doing a thread of all the times Tom King has plagiarized other people's work, or when he took credit for other people's work, like when he tried to say he invented Darkseid is. And I'm sorry, that was in Grant Morrison's JLA, at least the first time I saw it. So unless you were somehow writing Grant Morrison's JLA in the 90s, you did not come up with that.
Right. These newer writers, and it's more than Tom King. It is other writers who want to take credit for past work they think that, I mean, it can be 5 years old, it can be 20, it can be from the 50s, but there most likely it's going to be a fan that has read those issues from the 50s, and you can't just, you know, feel like you can take that story and it's forgotten so you can say get credit for it. That's just really lazy. And that's pretty much what Tom King is doing. He is taking older stories and trying to reinvent them in a way, and it's for the
Like,
worst.
remember, the Trinity series is going to be basically his reinvention of that Wonder Tot book, where like all the different Wonder Girls are like there.
Yeah, where it's Wonder Todd, Diana as Wonder Girl, or and then it is Diana obviously as adult Wonder Woman. And I
But,
mean,
real quick, Enzo brings up DC thinks he's their top writer for female characters by the way they gave him Jenny Sparks and Canary series. Except, okay, they did that because of his Supergirl series that's being made into a movie, except they forget that it was literally in dollar bins until it was said it's going to be in a movie.
exactly, it was a worse. It did not sell at all. Even when it was coming out, it wasn't a bestseller at all. Even the trades were not selling.
There's a
So
reason why they didn't give it a hardcover or any special edition until it was announced as a DCU book.
movie, but yeah,
Oh yeah, exactly.
yeah, but and that is really all of these other writers and who respect these characters and who have way better stories and runs for these characters. They are the ones that should be emphasized more than because you're besties or something with a certain writer.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry, that doesn't work. By the way, Dave says if DC wants to hire Tom King so badly that they should let him create new characters for DC. Well, let's see if his own creations sink or swim. They always sink. Look at Gotham and Gotham Girl,
yeah, I was about to say he already tried.
or Trinity.
Right, he already tried and they have sunk.
So it could just be that I think eventually, I hope eventually DC will. Well, if DC sales are bad enough, they'll get the message. But we may have to do a stream about how his books don't sell well. I mean a thread. Perhaps we'll consider that. There's lots of threads we can do on this, man. Isn't that funny? So
Right.
I think that's a good place to leave it because we're at 3 hours and 37 minutes. Jeez,
Oh
we're
my
almost at that
goodness.
Snyder cut length. But so Britt, do you have any stories you want to promote for us?
Of course, I have the one shots that I'm finally done with, and we'll be posting those soon. And we'll be sending you, of course, because you have an exclusive of chapter 3 of Shelterverse and the latest chapter for Twist of Fate, which is that's the ending, the last chapter of that story, which I'm very happy to finish and complete these stories finally.
About time.
Oh, quiet. And also just other stories that we have talked about and that I can't wait for us to get to because the Shelterverse obviously is expanding with even the story that um, was talked about today. As even though it's a hypothetical story, of course we are going to use elements of it or outright um, have it integrated within our own universe. And yeah, so just keep watch of the updates coming soon.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate this the message of the Wonder Woman fandom because I'll probably post this as a short or as a video on Twitter. But I'm gonna bring up here's my message to the Wonder Woman fandom. Great job so far with the hashtags. We're making great progress. We're taking a stand for our favorite character. It's one that, you know what? it's one that is well overdue. So let me put it to you that way. And I want to reiterate, and I know I speak for Brit, and I know I speak for Jid. We will always be that voice for you to essentially voice your concerns, whether or not it's on the show, on Twitter, whatever. We will, if you all ever feel like you don't matter because of which character you like, what pairings you like, you matter to us. It doesn't matter if you like SuperWonder, doesn't matter if you like WonderBat or Clois. You matter to us. We may disagree with you on certain things, but you know what? You matter to us. And there's one more thing that I definitely wanted to bring up, because I think that this was the best moment, I think, of the trending day, and it was one of the parts that really stuck with me. So I'm gonna bring this up. I'm scrolling up. I'm trying to find here. Okay, hang on. Scrolling up. Man, we send a lot of Twitter DMs. Scrolling up. Okay, come on, get there. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up. Shout out to our friend Octavia, because I brought up, all right, thank you for the support, because she's been blasting out the hashtag as well. And then this is what she said: we're in this together. Even if we disagree on a few things, we all want King off Wonder Woman. So shout out to Octavia, and that's it. Even if we disagree on like who Diana should be with, if she should be with boys or girls, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, we are looking out for the character herself, because we love this character, and she should be more respected than she currently is. And I'm sorry that we had to go through so much BS. And yes, Jay, we love Octavia. I'm sorry that we had that Diana had to go through so much BS. Honestly, I'm sorry I didn't start this hashtag sooner. I should have. I really, really, really should have. And you know what? This is not stopping. The moment the King hashtag. Now you may be wondering, Jared, what happens if like King leaves and they keep Trinity? Then we stop the King hashtag and just blast the retcon Trinity. At no point until the biggest example, until the things you can't just ignore are completely gotten rid of, the hashtags will not stop. That's it. It's not stopping anytime soon. So on that note, everyone, stay heroic. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. And Steve Trevor, Steve Never, he belongs 6 feet in the ground. Oh, by the way, so how would you feel about Grant Morrison coming? No. And you'll find out about that next week, because we're covering, I believe next week is Earth 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're covering Earth 1. You'll see why that's a bad idea. Yeah, and Jid's like, hell nah, exactly. I would support Rucka before Morrison. But anyway, so, okay, Steve Trevor, Steve Never, he belongs 6 feet in the ground. Zois and Maxabat for life. We will see you later. Bye-bye.